everyone, and welcome to the Postmodern Art Podcast, a podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I am your host, Nathan Ragland, and if you're listening to this the day that it drops, Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to each and every single one of you. I sincerely hope that today is a wonderful day that you get to spend with friends, family, loved ones, those that are close to you, and I hope you sincerely have a wonderful time this season, especially as the year is slowly, thankfully, winding down. I decided to give you guys a little bit of a Christmas gift, although I probably should have done a little sooner given the guest I have for today, but instead of giving you the gift during one of the 8 crazy nights, I decided for Christmas Day I'd give you the gift of one crazy conversation with an amazing guest. Today's guest is Seth Kearsley, an animator, storyboard artist, and comic artist who has had over 3 decades of insane opportunities working on the likes of Family Guy, The Simpsons, The Max, Kingdom Hearts, 8 Crazy Nights, and so much more. I was lucky to even get in contact with Seth in the first place. In fact that, as you'll hear as we get to the episode, 8 Crazy Nights has a very special place in my heart. Especially seeing all the incredible stuff he's had a chance to work on both before and since. Like, he was a perfect guest that I knew you guys were going to absolutely love. And even though this conversation is already as long as it is, we could have gone on for so much longer. There is a lot packed into this conversation that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. If you enjoy our guest, please make sure you support him with the links down in the description below. Especially with going to his shop, which will be probably one of the first links I have down below, and checking out stuff like his comic that he is currently developing, Neverwonderland. We will talk so much more about it in the episode itself, but sincerely, give it a chance. Just even look at the art style is incredible. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. And if you can, leave 5 stars wherever you can. You know I see that stuff, and you know it genuinely warms my heart. If you want to go a little further with that support, why not treat yourself to some of the wonderful merch that we have at the merch shop? We have some amazing designs that's done by some wonderful artists, and we currently do have a sale going on to where if you type in the code HOLLYJOLLY at checkout, you can get 10% off of your order. And trust me, with all the incredible designs that either I have designed or the wonderful artists that have helped me out with this podcast in one form or another, like, there are some wonderful things that you would look fantastic in today. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. How you doing today, man?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you sincerely for even taking the time to do this in the first place. Like, I forgot how long ago I found your stuff. I think it was like at least like a year or so ago. But I remember like seeing your stuff and kind of it clicked in my head because I'll be honest, before we even really get started recording, 8 Crazy Nights was one of those movies that for some reason my mom had on VHS, so I would watch it over and over as a kid. And I probably shouldn't as a kid. but like with that and then seeing all the other stuff that you've had a hand in one form or fashion or whatnot, it's really great to even get a chance to even talk to you, let alone have you on here for a conversation.
Yes, I clicked something that turned the camera off.
I saw that, but I was just trying to ignore it and push forward. But yeah, no, sincerely, Thank you for even taking the time to do this, because this is kind of a weird, surreal moment for me to even chat with you.
So how old were you when you saw it?
Oh my goodness, I don't even remember. That's the thing, because for context, I'm 29 right now. I don't think it was when it exactly dropped, but it was probably around that same range or whatnot. So I had to be
4.
No, I wasn't 4. No, I was a little older than that when the movie dropped. I want to say I was at least like 8 or 9 or something like that.
It was 2002.
Yeah, I was born in 96.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I said, I was probably about 8 or 9 when I first remember watching it.
Yeah.
All right, Seth. Before we really do get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a deserted island on your own accord. It is just you alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe, truly enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations. I shouldn't say deserted island, more like a personal B&B paradise away from society for a little bit.
Sure.
To make sure you don't go completely insane on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever kind of headspace you want on this island. If given this opportunity, what would that one piece be?
Like something to watch, because like really the thing would be like if I had like something to draw on, that would be like I could just hang out on a deserted island forever just drawing.
I'm
Um,
very loose with the term of like one piece of media or art. So it could be like a
yeah,
movie, a series, a video game, or it could be like your sketch pad or your tablet to draw on or whatnot, whatever
yeah.
you
I
consider.
mean, so I'll say getting over a cold also, so you have to spare the spare or like forgive me the like clearing of the
Oh,
throat.
if that's the case, thank you for
Um,
even taking the time to do that after that.
yeah. So yeah, it would either be a sketchbook or if it was like some sort of like physical media that then it would be like a way to play League of Legends because that's like those are the two things that I spend the bulk of my time doing. So
Okay, okay. The sketchbook I can understand. That's just the artist and you want to continue to draw
yeah,
stuff, especially with the stuff you have
yeah.
currently brewing up. I'm curious about League. How did you even find out about it, and why is that like a go-to for you?
So I used to play World of Warcraft, or not World of Warcraft, Warcraft pre World of Warcraft,
Right,
and StarCraft and Total Annihilation and Kingdoms and like all of those like real time strategy, third person top down view games. And I saw this show on Netflix called The Week of, and they were doing like the week of like the Paris Fashion Week or the week of the Westminster Dog Show,
okay,
and so they did the week of the league finals,
right,
and they were showing like how like they packed like the Nest Stadium in China, and that there are more eyes that watch that game than that watch the Super Bowl, and I was like, oh
right.
my God, I have to check out what this game is. And so I started playing it, and it's so unbelievably hard that I was just like I was determined to not just suck, and so then also I have like a whole background in martial arts, and so that sort of like strategy component and the fighting component like really kind of like taps into that same energy that you have when you're sparring. So yeah, it scratches an itch. So
Okay,
like I can't I can't go out on a basketball court and compete with people half my age, but
right.
I can compete with people half my age in league. And then they find out that I'm 54, and they're like, "Oh my God, you don't play like you're 54." So yeah, I actually I've thought about doing. My computer can't handle streaming, but I have thought about doing a Twitch stream called Grandpa League
Oh my god.
because I'm literally probably old enough to be the grandpa of some of the people playing. Like
Right.
if they're in high school, then yeah, I'm biologically speaking, I could be your grandpa.
Look,
I have nieces and nephews that are your age.
right, right. No, I'm just saying, like, we need to start like a GoFundMe or something like that to give you like the funding for a
Yeah,
proper PC to make that a reality.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I
yeah.
would pay to see the grandpa streams or whatnot when it comes
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you
I
just
actually
talking about kids.
I was doing it on my YouTube for a little bit. And I was doing a voice. So I was doing like even an old man voice where I was like, hey, go take that! You think you can get me, huh?
You kids don't know
You know,
anything about where I'm coming from.
yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And there were moments, but I couldn't do it live. I had to do it like I'd have to like record the game and then play the game back and then do it over over that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that's so I started playing League in 2019. And then there was this little pandemic that happened that had us all like shut into our houses with nothing to do, and so I like really leaned into League.
Yep.
So
Look, look.
and
Some people get in
yeah.
the league when the pandemic happens. Some people get in the podcasting when the pandemic happens because that's when this podcast
Okay.
started. So,
All right.
so
Nice.
I get that vibe. But regardless, either a sketchbook or a League of Legends. Those are your answers. You're locking that in.
Yes. Yeah.
That
Aside from like having my family there and
well,
all of
yeah.
that, but if there were just two like things, yes, it would be. because I can literally like there was one time I was with my wife. We went to Paris
Mm-hmm.
for her birthday, and we were just doing a short hop from Paris back to London. And we sort of like flew to London, went to Paris, back to London, back to home, right?
Right.
And we spent a little bit of time in London, and our trip plan was that we were going to go back to London and have like another day, and then head home. And when we got to the airport, it was the New Year's Day. It was
Okay.
when we're doing this travel, and there was it was also like after 9/11.
Oh
So
wow.
the rules changed, and so there was no flying with a package that didn't also have the passenger whose luggage that is.
Right.
There was a woman that like took so long to actually show up for the flight, and then there was like a snowstorm that came in, and like all of a sudden we're like number 8 for de-icing because we've been sitting there for so long. And we actually sat on the it was like a 1 hour flight, and we sat on the tarmac waiting to get into the air, waiting for this woman, and then waiting to get into the air for 8 hours.
Goodness.
And I spent that time just drawing. I just drew for 8 hours, and it just sailed by. I did this
Yeah.
really awesome drawing of the Max, and just like
Yeah.
really, really did a deep dive into all the detail and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I can, a sketchbook would be how I could just like time could just go by, and I would just be in another world of my own making.
Yeah, figuratively and literally in one form or fashion,
Yeah,
given some of
yeah.
the stuff you've been able to do. No, that's an incredible story to hear. Regardless, I think that's a good testament of how you are as an artist, and I think with that is probably a good way for us to truly start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome, everyone. I am your host, Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. You would look fantastic in the merch we have at the merch shop, fourthwall.com. Link to that is in the description below. And follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and most social media platforms at PostmodArtPod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is an animator, storyboard artist, and comic artist who has had over 3 years of crazy opportunities, working on the likes of Family Guy, Phineas and Ferb, Illumination films such as The Secret Life of Pets and Sing, Kingdom Hearts, Eight Crazy Nights, and so much more. Welcome to the podcast, Seth Kearsley.
Thank you. That's a lot of stuff.
That's a lot of stuff, and I feel like I hadn't even like scratched the surface. That's only like the tip of the iceberg of some of the incredible
Yeah.
things that you had a chance to work on, which I'm sure we'll get to a good chunk of that and then some with today's conversation. How you doing today, Seth?
I'm doing good.
That
Yeah,
I
getting over a cold, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah,
Well, with that in mind, again, thank you for even taking the time to do this after dealing with that, because I imagine dealing with the cold not exactly the best when it comes to talking for a while
yeah.
afterwards.
No worries. Just know that my throat probably is a little bit more growly than it usually
Well,
would be.
duly noted. But regardless, even without the sickness, thank you for even taking the time to be here. Like I kind of illustrated before we really got this show on the road. Uh, I did not fully realize how much of an impact you've had on me, like growing up, and even nowadays with some of the stuff you've been able to have a hand in, until like
Yeah,
recently seeing some of the things you've been able to post online. And it's really cool to see not only what you have done, but what you've continued to do and what you're wanting to do and aspiring to do. Like it's really incredible, and that's why I wanted to have you on here to talk about all that and then some. But before we talk about the stuff you're doing nowadays, I want to go back just a little bit and learn more or less the origin story of Seth. What got you
Mm.
interested in art and animation and stuff in the first place?
So I have cystic fibrosis,
Oh,
and as a little kid, I was sick a lot,
oh wow.
and my parents don't have like crazy money,
Mm-hmm.
so I spent a lot of my childhood. If I wasn't at school and I was sick, then I was in my dad's work truck, and on whatever job site he was on,
Okay.
and he had like a steno pad that he would take notes on,
Right.
and he would just kind of like, it was a van that he had that had like, captain's chairs on the driver and the passenger side, and
Yeah.
then he built a table in between that you could like go like that. And so he would leave the steno pad and a pencil, and he'd be like, "As long as you've got your imagination, you'll never be bored." And I'm like,
Hey.
"Okay." And he was also an avid reader of like the Conan books.
Okay.
And so a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy and stuff like that. And so it just happens that Frank Frazetta was on the cover of most of those books.
Hmm.
And so I started drawing like these barbarian characters, like really just trying to mimic what this guy was doing. Like I couldn't even imagine like how do you do that? Like
Right.
the lighting that he had, like all of the the design, everything. Like I didn't know enough at the time to know that those were things, but all of that just sort of made it all like so alive in my imagination. And that's why he was paid what he was paid in order to like do those book covers, because that book cover really sells you for the whole book.
Absolutely.
So that kind of begins the like drawing process, and then my dad was an architect and contractor,
Okay.
when I was feeling better, I would sort of like wander onto the job site, and I became like the gopher, go for this, go for that.
Right.
And so he'd be like, "Hey, can you go and get the speed square?" And I'm like, "I don't know what's a speed square."
Right.
And then he would like draw what it is, and I'd be like, "Oh, okay." And then I would go into the truck and I would find that thing that he drew. So like communicating visually just was a very early thing, so I just always continued drawing, and people will ask like, well, when did you start drawing? And my answer is always, well, when did you stop?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
when you stopped, I didn't stop. And But I never had any art classes.
Okay.
We didn't have the kind of money that was like art class for kids money. So I just was drawing on my own, and I would like draw from comics. I would draw from Disney stuff, and you just try to like make it look like that thing.
Yeah.
Um, and and then I had a friend that was a couple years ahead of me in school, and he went to Cal Arts.
Okay.
So he would invite me out to Cal Arts for the parties, which were insane.
I can only
Uh,
imagine, especially back then.
School parties in the late 80s,
Yep. Yep.
So I graduated high school in 90, so I'm going to these parties in like 87, 88, and like they were insane. And I hadn't given college a lot of thought. My dad's thought was that I would go to business school and then I would help, because basically from like 9 to 19, I worked for my dad,
Right.
and we built houses. And his plan for me was that I was going to go to business school and then run the business side of the business.
Hmm.
And he would be like the architect, and we would have a crew, and we'd sort of, and that would have been great. And
Yeah.
probably I would be like filthy, filthy rich right now if I had just followed my dad's plan. But instead, I was like, I want to go to cartoon college,
There you go.
and so he's like, I support you 100%, just not financially. Like, we can't afford, Cal Arts.
Yeah.
It was a very expensive private school even then, even more so now. And
Absolutely.
now I have a daughter that's like, I want to go to Cal Arts. And I'm like, it's $80,000 a year. And there's no work in animation. So, like, I can't
Unfortunately.
really see paying $80,000 a year for you to then graduate and then not have a job.
Exactly.
So, but when I went out to Cal Arts for the parties, I would wander through the animation department, and just all of the drawings that were on the walls. Like this is back, like this is pre-cell phone, right? So there was
Yeah.
like two phones in the whole animation school. And so if you wanted to get a hold of someone, you had to call that phone, and then someone would be like, "Hello," and then, "Hey, is Dan there?" And you'd be like, "Dan,
Yeah.
this
Exactly.
is yeah." And so, you have these artists who are sitting there on the phone and just doodling on the wall in their pencil. But, these artists are like Craig McCracken and Gendy
Oh,
Tartakovsky, and, like artists of that level that are
right.
like, they're just in school, but like they're doing amazing work. And so it was that was so inspiring. And then at one of the parties, I heard this like beep beep, and I kept hearing it. It wasn't like a fire smoke detector battery low kind of a thing. It was,
Right.
but it was always like beep beep. And so I followed it down to the camera room, and it was actually someone shooting their student film. And so that beep beep was it taking 2 frames, and then it would rewind. This was being shot on video.
Okay.
It would rewind 5 seconds, and then he'd like change out what's underneath the camera, and then he'd hit for it to go again, and it would play that 5 seconds, and then go beep beep and take the next 2 frames.
Okay.
And so I got to watch like how he was actually making the thing. Like I sort of understood the concept of like a flip book, but like I just didn't really get like how do you like put it all together.
Yeah.
And so sitting there, maybe a little drunk, watching his thing. He had no idea I was there because he had the door propped open with a chair because it gets
Right.
hot in the camera
Of
room.
course.
And so at a point I was just like, wow, that's so cool, and I probably scared him. And So that guy was Pete Docter, and he was
Oh,
shooting his film about a grumpy old man with a square head and a little girl with a round head that gets a balloon stuck in a tree. And the grumpy old man finally comes and helps her get the balloon out. So totally a precursor to Up.
yeah, to put it
And,
mildly.
and yeah, and so watching that, like it just like kind of demystified the whole thing. It was like, oh my God, I get it now.
Yeah.
And so then I really had to go, and I tried to get in, and I was way too late because my parents never really talked to me about college or stuff like that, and like.
Right.
I have girls now that are, sophomores in high school. They're already talking about college.
Right.
But I just went out like I graduated from high school, and then during the summer between high school and what would be my first year of college, I went out to Cal Arts thinking like you'll just accept me now. But like acceptances went out like 6 months ago. So they gave me a bunch of stuff to work on, and then I stayed and worked on all that stuff. And I was able to get in. There's like a crazy story that happens around that time.
Okay.
Uh, there was a drought in California, and so in Ventura, where I was living, they were being very strict on new plumbing. So
Okay.
because of the drought, they weren't issuing building permits for anything that involved new plumbing. So, my dad's business was buying a house that was zoned for more than one unit, that only had one unit on the property, and then adding additional units and then like renting that out for a while and then selling it. But so he had just bought a house,
Mm-hmm.
and then this new rule came down, and so he ended up moving back to Ohio, to take care of his mom and my stepmom's mom. They moved in with them, and then I was stayed in Ventura and lived in the one-car garage, of that property that he bought,
Okay.
and he gave the people like a little bit of a discount on the rent because I was going to be living in the garage. And so I was like just on the cusp of being homeless, and I spent like a whole year just working on everything that they told me to work on, and then I went back out at the proper time that you need to go out,
Right.
and I was able to talk to the dean of the animation school, and I didn't have a portfolio. I had a sketchbook,
Right.
that I shoplifted from the grocery store down the street, and I shoplifted all my art supplies because I didn't have any money.
Right.
And so I'm running him through like the everything that has happened during this crazy year, which also like my car almost got stolen. They like
Oh.
busted the window, and then ironically, we had the most rain that we had had in decades. That winter. And and I'm just telling him about how I'm living in a one-car garage with like a camper behind. With it's me and my brother and like a couple of his friends,
Okay.
and I'm just like motor mouthing like the whole story. And he's like flip, 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 flip. I'd never had like a real portfolio review. And but that's how fast it goes. Like it's like boom, boom, boom.
Right.
As quickly as you can turn the pages, you can tell what that person can do or can't do. And so I'm just like I'm totally messing this up. Like he's like not even taking any time to look at it. Like I suck. Like this is not going to work out. And then he finishes looking, and I had like this story in my head of what I was going to tell. Um, and um, and then it just seems like he just goes back to work because he opened his desk drawer and he pulls something out and then he starts like writing something out, and I'm just like, oh my god, he's like just gone back to work. And so I'm like in my head, I'm like, wrap it up. And and so and then here I am.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, that yeah, that's great. And he slides the piece of paper that he was writing on over to me, and he's like, take this to admissions. I'll see you in the fall.
There you
I was like,
go.
oh my god. And my brother and his friends had driven me to out. Because we lived in Ventura, CalArts is in Santa Clarita, so it's like it's not that far.
Hmm.
And so they were all waiting in the parking lot. And I walked back to the parking lot, and they're like, "So what happened?" And I'm like, "I think I got in." And they're all like, oh my god, that's amazing, oh my god." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I think I also though like he could have just been saying that to get me out of his office because." It didn't really seem like he was paying attention to what I was saying, and it didn't really seem like he was looking at my portfolio, and so it was only when like the admissions packet actually showed up
Okay.
that it was like real. Like, oh my god,
Right.
I actually got in. And then I looked at how much it cost because I had never even thought about how much it cost. I was like, I'll figure that. That's a problem for future me.
There you go.
And and then I see how much it costs, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't afford this. And so, but I was able to get like a bunch of like grants and financial aid and
Good.
scholarships and stuff like that. And then I also like, as soon as I was told that that's what was happening, I went back to Ohio to work with my dad on whatever it was that he was doing back there because
Hmm.
I knew I could make good money working with my dad, and
Right.
so where he was building houses in California, in Ohio, he didn't have a contractor's license, and so he was building
Uh,
decks and fences, and so that summer I built miles of fences and like hundreds and thousands of square feet of decks. And was able to afford like the first semester at school. And I was just like, I'll go for one semester, and if I can't stay, at least I got one semester. But then once I got there, and I was like, I will just show them how much of a hard worker I am,
right.
and they'll just have to keep me. And so I ended up getting like work study money where
There you
like
go.
I actually ended up working in the scene shop for the theater school.
Okay.
So I went from building houses with my dad to building sets for the
It's
CalArts, um, and uh, and so yeah, and then my last year of school, or when I went to Ohio,
hmm
I was like, okay, I need to like work on my skills, and so I went to a comic book shop, and I was looking for like just different artists whose work like popped out to me,
hmm
and so that's when I discovered Sam Keith,
Yep.
and so I started drawing from his Wolverine stuff, and then by the time I'm getting out of CalArts, then the Max in his move over to Image had happened, and so the Max was only had like I want to say it had like 7 books out
Okay.
when it was picked up for a series for MTV, and so. The guy who ran Rough Draft was also a CalArts grad, and so he just put flyers up at the school, like total like guerrilla marketing.
Oh yeah.
Just went up there without permission and just put flyers up on the walls. And so I responded to his call for artists, and and then that was my first job.
That's insane to even hear in the first, like, that entire like origin story, I guess, of you so far is just absolutely incredible. Like, hearing obviously like what could have derailed you a lot worse than what it probably did, like giving you the opportunity to draw more with your fibrosis, um
Yeah,
dealing with that, you know having those opportunities to even be in the same room as some of the people that you were talking about, like a Craig McCracken or a Pete Doctor or whatnot, which I can only
yeah.
imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, that had to be like the moment it went from like something you loved and appreciated to like a passion and like wanting to make it your career, like experiencing that and like being in the same vicinity as that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And the only thing I knew about CalArts was that Tim Burton went there.
Right.
And Batman, Beetlejuice, Edward Scissorhands, all those movies came out when I was in high school. So, like the all I knew about CalArts was that Tim Burton went there. And so that's why I was going to go because
Yep.
Tim Burton went there. They teach that at CalArts.
Right. but
And
but
then I didn't really know a lot about animation. And there were all of these guys that were in my class or in the class ahead of me that were talking about, like, they were always talking about the nine old men. And I was like, what the
uh
nine old men? Like, are there nine old guys that like go to this school or like that work here? Like, who are these nine old men they keep talking about? And then gradually, like, okay, yeah, 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 it's from Disney. Oh,
yep.
okay, I got it. I'm with you.
The nine old men that
'Cause
basically made Disney what it was with some of the amazing like animated features that they
yeah,
had a hand in one form or fashion.
yeah. I mean, they those guys kind of like single-handedly like created what we know as feature animation.
Exactly, exactly. So to even be in the same room as some of these people that admire those guys, and like you had mentioned, like some of those names
Yeah,
who would go on to do incredible stuff, to even like be in
yeah,
the same room just as a teenager, and then to go to that same school and like
yeah,
yeah, have that like love and passion and like drive to want to be in there, be in that field. That's the kind of like
yeah,
energy and excitement that I love hearing about, and I love it whenever like artists of all ages, of all walks of life, have that like desire to, that's like, I'm going to be here no matter what it takes at the end of the
yeah.
day. So, and
Well,
obviously,
and there were people that were at CalArts when I was there that besides the ones that went on to like huge careers,
yeah.
there were people that were there that were there like hadn't been accepted,
Oh, wow.
but just started showing up to classes. So, it's a different time. And so they were just like auditing classes.
Mhm.
And so just being like really incognito behind the scenes, but like weren't actually paying tuition, and
Right.
and some of them ended up being like so good that the school then accepted them, like for the next year or something like that.
God,
But yeah,
I miss when colleges were just so easy, like that. Like nowadays, is a whole entire like
yeah,
track and field, like take out loans, or you have to take all these different tests and X, Y, Z, up, down, left, right, all that stuff. So, um, but
I
regard,
mean, CalArts didn't require the SAT,
yeah.
and at the time, just anyone could drive on campus. It's not that way now, but
Oh yeah, no, I can only imagine how it is nowadays. But regardless, the fact that it also led to some of your first opportunities, like you were talking about with the Max, which I did want to bring that up because that being like your first taste in the industry
yeah,
itself, like your first step in the industry. I think you mentioned this in a video you've recorded on your own channel as well, but like you were spoiled right off the bat, which is how gorgeous the
yeah,
animation and stuff was. But what was the experience like
yeah,
working for that? Because like you said, you admired the artist's work with like the Wolverine, comics and such.
yeah.
So even get a chance to even tinker in his world had to be like a mind blowing experience right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, literally like kid in a candy store. That like, when we went down, it was like a group of us from school that went down, and he basically, Greg Vanzo, who owns Rough Draft, basically hired us all on the spot, and was like, it's 800 a week, take it. That was, I mean, that's a lot of money now. It was a
Yep,
lot of money then.
it was a
And
lot of
we all
money
like,
then.
we were like, Oh yeah, yeah. We'll think about it. Because like we didn't want to be like yes, but we're walking away, carrying our portfolios, going like like making sure it's like in here, so that if anyone was watching, they're not seeing us going like yes. And then we all were like, okay, when are you gonna call? Because I don't want to call when you're gonna call. Can we like I'm gonna call tonight. Like, can you call like tomorrow?
So I'm gonna call. Are you gonna
Uh,
call? I'm gonna. No, no, you call. No, I
yeah.
call. I call. Okay, I call. Then you call. No, you call. Then I call.
Also, he was like no bullshit, and gave us the radio play to listen to on our way home.
Okay.
And so we like go and we get in the car and we like go to get on the freeway to drive back up to Santa Clarita, and then we hit play on the thing, and there's no music, it's just the dialogue, right? And
Right.
also the scratch voice for the Max was shoot. His name escapes me now, but he's an animator that he also did the scratch voice for the Iron Giant.
Oh
Um,
wow. Okay.
yeah, I forget his name. It's just escaping me right now. So it was even deeper than the voice that is in the thing, and so we
Hmm.
hit play, and then you just hear, uh, "It was wet, dark, and wet." And we were all like the goosebumps, just like and we were like, oh my god, we're gonna get to work on that. Like, can I do that scene? That's awesome. And then just like every step of the way, like Greg was doing stuff that wouldn't other TV shows wouldn't do for like 10 or 15 years. Like,
Right.
it was digital ink and paint for a TV show. It was combining 2D and 3D for a TV show. Like these were things that were happening in features, but he was just like yeah. And then also that like there were no model sheets for that show. Because Sam doesn't draw the characters the same way from scene to scene.
Right.
He'll even completely change styles from scene to scene. Uh, and and so it was always like just make it cool.
Yeah.
And like that was the like just make it cool. Like okay, so. I always think about that. It's like, the direction that he would give us, and sometimes the lack of direction that he would give us, and just sort of like give people that are passionate about it room to run. Give them some free reign and just let them go.
Hmm.
And so we all just sort of like, you know, um, we attacked that like so vigorously, that we were all just like constantly pinching ourselves that we were so lucky to get this job. Meanwhile, like a lot of our classmates who were dead set on like Disney,
Right.
or feature. There was a split that was happening while I was at CalArts where it had all been just feature animation.
Hmm.
But then you have like, Gendy Tartakovsky and Craig McCracken, who were like a couple of years ahead of me. And they were all in for TV. Like
Yeah.
they were all in for Hanna-Barbera, where these Disney guys were like, Hanna-Barbera is crap. And these guys were like, the Disney movies are crap. Like the Hanna-Barbera stuff, that was, just like gold.
Yeah.
I thought like, well, I I had also applied at Disney for like the in between cleanup job, which was the entry level job.
Right.
But I'm already working on the Max, and I'm already like with the Max, you're getting like whole sequences that you're doing. You're doing from this scene all the way to this scene.
Hmm.
And then I go into, they were doing Pocahontas at the time, or at
Okay.
least the test was Pocahontas. And so I'm doing it was a in between cleanup test, and I'm doing the test, and the whole time all I can think about is like how much more I'm getting to do on the Max, and why the fuck would I ever do this? This is like putting the drawings in between someone else's drawings that are in between someone else's drawings
Yep.
that are based on someone else's drawings, that came from the storyboard that someone else did. And it's just like, all of a sudden I saw the whole process differently and like where I wanted to be as an artist. And like
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to be a director. And I was like on the max, like I'm basically the director of that section.
Yeah.
And there was a board artist that had been in Greg's class when he was at ColorArts that was working on the show, and he was like, "I can't believe that Greg is letting everyone do the boards because that's basically you're basically directing the show if you're doing the boards."
Yeah.
So I thought about it like that, and so like I don't even know if I finished that test. I think that I think about halfway through, I did like a couple of the drawings, and then it was just like, yeah, this is not for me.
That's fair.
Uh, and then I went back to the Max, and I had so much more freedom and so much more creative control already on the Max on
Yeah.
my first job. And yeah, um, and then when it came out, like people just like lost their mind that we had done this thing, that we weren't really thinking anything of like other, like it's cool, but we weren't like none of us had worked in the business before, so we didn't realize how many rules we were breaking,
Exactly. Yeah.
and just how different it was. So so then I had like other jobs that would come up where they were like, "Yeah, we want it to be like the Max," and then I would start to do it like the Max. And they're like, "Oh no, no, but not that part. No, no,
Not
not
like
that
this
part."
or
I'm
not like
like,
that part. Not
and
that.
you don't want it to actually be like the Max, so don't say you want it to be like the Max.
No, that's honestly
And even
extremely
still
valid.
now, Sam's retired,
Right.
and Sam, like working on the Max. Um, you just assumed that, like in my head, Sam looked like the Max.
Yeah.
I just assumed it was going to be this badass dude was going to come through, and that he was going to have this like deep gravelly voice, and but he was such a sweet guy, and he was like, we were like, no, he's like he can't be this insecure about his own drawing because like he's like the shit. Like
Yeah.
how could he be? But he's very self-deprecating,
Mm-hmm.
and never like takes his work like he always is like, oh yeah, no, I don't know. And it's
Oh.
like, dude, like you crush it.
Yeah.
And I know that he's had like I totally understand the relationship that he's had with the Max,
Yeah.
because I've had that same relationship with Eight Crazy Nights now,
Yep.
where like it opened a bunch of doors, then it closed a bunch of doors, and
Mm-hmm.
then like everyone wants you to just do that thing again.
Yep. Yep.
So but now he's retired, and I just think about like part of why I keep drawing characters that I've worked on, the shows that I've worked on, is because I feel like I owe those characters like life. And so like I want to keep drawing Whitey because I want Whitey to still exist in the world,
Oh
and
yeah.
I want to keep drawing the Max because I want the Max to keep existing in the world. So the fact that he's retired now, and I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I hope that he's okay and that he's not retiring because there's any kind of like health issue or anything like that.
Right. Right.
But then also I wonder about the Max. Like, what happens to the Max? Because it's not like Batman or Superman, like where like it'll just like someone will keep doing it. If Sam isn't doing the Max, then no one's doing the Max.
Exactly.
And what happens to Max? And there's so many people that are interested in it now that
Oh yeah.
it would be amazing to like get to do something again with it. But I don't
I
know.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, the reason why I even brought it up in the first place is because, like, I think you can easily attest this as someone that worked on that show, especially with how in depth you worked on that show. That show was definitely way ahead of its time more than anything else. Like
Yeah,
the type of show that it was, and like the animation style stuff like that. That's the stuff you would kind of expect like nowadays on like a Netflix like limited series or something like that.
yeah,
And you guys were doing this in like the mid '90s more than anything else. Like that is
yeah.
insane to even think of.
94.
Yeah, '94. It's insane to
Yeah,
even think about in the first place. And with such a unique art style and even like a different variety of art styles, as well as like an intriguing story and a unique way that tells the story or whatnot. Like if someone wanted to take the opportunity to like bring it like to modern day stuff and like even do like a new animated series, something like that, the level of popularity might be like through the roof like it never was before. Like you guys
Yeah.
unfortunately didn't get back in '94.
Yeah. I mean, there was a weird pocket of time where the Max is on MTV because like reality TV was already a thing when the Max was on.
Yeah.
But like there was Eon Flux that was also on MTV,
Mm-hmm.
and Beavis and Butthead, and
Yep.
so there was a lot of animation on MTV, and I think The Real World came out
I want to say it was like '92 was
like
like the first season.
92.
Yeah, the first. I think the first season was
Yeah,
'92.
yeah, yeah. So by the time you get to like 94 where we're making it and then 95 where it's actually on MTV,
Mm-hmm.
like then MTV kind of just like stopped making animation.
Yeah.
And they just went all in on reality TV because it was cheaper to produce and faster turnaround and like just get a bunch of like hot 20 somethings and throw them into a house together with a lot of alcohol and see what happens next. And so so yeah, I think like now it would really like it would really hit hard.
Yeah.
And I know that there was like some talk of like Channing Tatum was interested in doing like a movie,
Okay.
and so there was a little bit of talk about that, but I don't know like how far that got or if that's like actually happening or anything like that.
I can only imagine someone that worked on that series like that. Like if they came to you and be like, "Hey," or like if Sam came to you and be like, "Hey, I have an idea of like bringing this back in some form or fashion. Do you want to help me like bring this back up to speed or
Yeah,
whatnot?"
100%.
Yeah, I
It
imagine you
would
would
be like
do it in a heartbeat, right?
as soon as he called and started that, I'd be like, yes. Yes. Yeah,
Goodness. But even
yeah.
then,
I
it's
mean, good.
no, I was gonna say, but even then, like it's not like that. It's not like that first step. Like say, even though you were spoiled for it, it certainly was far from the end of your animation career. As I honestly illustrated with the fact of it being
Yeah, yeah,
30
yeah,
years, over 30 years at this point that you've been able to do this kind of thing. I mean,
yeah.
even then, like some of the next opportunities that you got that I saw, you had the chance to work on like The Simpsons, or I feel like I would be doing a disservice to my co-showrunner TipsyJHearts if I did not mention this. But you got to work on, you it's funny that you talked about Disney a little bit earlier, like working, doing the screen test for Pocahontas or whatnot. But you actually did get a chance to work
Mhm.
with Disney with Timon and Pumbaa doing character layouts for
Yeah,
them, which that had to be kind of a weird, maybe possibly humbling moment from initially being like, yeah, I'm fine with working on this to, all right, here I am in the House of Mouse.
yeah. Well, I'm not gonna let you pass by The Simpsons though
Oh
because
no, of course not. I just I
The
wanted to,
Simpsons came out when I was when I was in high school,
right.
or actually a little bit before high school, maybe.
I believe
And so I was
didn't
such
did
a rabid fan.
right.
Like there were the Tracy Ullman shorts,
Yeah. I
and
remember the
then
Tracy Ullman shorts. That was like, I want to say it was like 87, 88, because I think the first season came out in 89 of the actual Simpsons.
uh,
I could be
yeah.
wrong. I'm not the encyclopedia
No,
here.
that seems about right.
Yeah.
That seems about right. 88, 89, somewhere in there. But that's me at like a junior or senior in high school. And all of a sudden there's like animation is just blowing up with The Simpsons. Like
Yeah.
there's a primetime show that's animated and like so my next job being The Simpsons,
Oh, that was
all my friends and family were like, "Oh my God, you made it! You made
oh
it!"
that
Like,
was
they
that
didn't
was
think anything of
that
the
was the
Max.
that was the direct next job after the Max was
That
done.
was the next job after
Oh,
the
okay.
Max.
I feel I am so disrespectful for not going straight to that and going to the, oh yeah, the Disney show that you worked on. No, okay,
Yeah.
that had to be another surreal moment. Again, like here you are working on this one show like the Max, and then like your
Yeah.
next best thing is arguably the biggest animated show in the nation with The
Yeah.
Simpsons.
Yeah. And I remember my first episode was the Lisa the Vegetarian episode.
Oh
And
wow.
my first scene is where it's in a Troy McClure like infomercial thing that he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
And Troy McClure's like, scientists agree. And then there's a quick shot of a scientist that goes, Uh, that was my first
That
scene.
was your first scene.
Um, yeah. And then I got a lot of the like animal stuff on the show because
Interesting.
like I had gone to Cal Arts, and part of like the whole like thing at Cal Arts is spending a lot of time at the zoo drawing.
Okay.
So like I actually knew like animal anatomy like well enough to like do the Simpsons version of it. So like
Okay.
in that same thing when he's talking about the life cycle or the circle of life, and there's like you know the lion chasing a gazelle or something like that. Like that was me.
Mm-hmm.
And then the when they're at the petting zoo, and there's the sheep, and there's like the really cute sheep, and then the even cuter sheep, and then the even cuter sheep, and then the middle cuteness sheep comes in, and Homer's like, "Out of the way, you."
You got the chance to
That
work
was
on that
that
scene
was
as
one of
well.
my yeah, that was like it within my first few weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, like I got the crew jacket that I was on season 7, right? And
Okay.
so like the crew jacket was like a Letterman's jacket.
Mm-hmm.
And so it has your name like stitched on it. And then they were giving away patches for each season. So if
Okay.
you had been there from the beginning, then you got season 1 patch, you got that patch, and you got that patch. But when I came in at season 7, they changed it, and so I got the jacket with all of the patches that there had been, and then the new patch.
Oh.
So I still have that jacket.
Oh wow.
And so it's got like 7 patches on the arms, which was awesome. And I wore it everywhere. Like when I was on that show, like I remember I went for Christmas to go visit my sister, and I wore that jacket through the airport, and like and then around and where she was, and literally it's like you were a rock star.
Mm-hmm.
People were like, "Oh my God, where did you get that jacket?" And I'm like, "Well, I work on the show," and they're just like, "No." So
Oh man, that
yeah,
again, I kind of illustrated this already, but like that had to be like so surreal, and I imagine it's still got to be a little bit surreal thinking about the legacy of that show, especially those early seasons, and the fact that you got to be a hand in like probably one of the bigger memes to come from it, which is that sheep one that you were talking
yeah,
about.
yeah,
I still see people using that meme like to this
yeah, yeah, yeah.
day. That has to be.
I didn't know. Like I did this. I was like, I wonder if I could like tell the story of my career in GIFs. And so I was on Twitter, and I was like, I typed in like the Max, and I typed in the Simpsons, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of my scenes. Beep. And then people, I was like, yeah, this is one of my scenes from the Simpsons, and then that's the first time that I found out that that's like a big thing. Uh,
Oh man, that's hilarious more than anything else. Like, and in a way, it's also kind of a full circle moment if you really think about, like you said, what's a good way to like kind of describe your career or whatnot. Thinking about all the other opportunities, like, oh, it's cool to do this, it's cool to do this, and there are people that focus on
yeah,
like a very niche thing or whatnot, and there's other stuff you probably want to
yeah,
introduce. It's like they're like, out of the way, we want to talk about this.
yeah. Out of the way, you. Yeah. Um, So, I was on the Max. I had been doing storyboards and character layout,
Right.
and then also animating, um, and so on The Simpsons, when I came in, they were like, "Do you want to do storyboards, or do you want to do character layout?" And I was like, "Well, let me do character layout to like sort of get a feel for the show and learn the characters and stuff like that, and then I'll switch to storyboards." And so
Okay.
after a season, I went to the producer, and I was like, okay, so like I feel like I have like a good handle on the show, and so I want to do storyboards now. And he was like, well, we don't have any openings for storyboards.
Ah.
I was like, oh, okay, well, I want to do storyboards now, so I'm gonna go find a job doing storyboards.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, good luck. And then that was the same attitude of everyone that when I was like, I'm leaving The Simpsons. They're like, what do you mean you're leaving The Simpsons? Like, I was thinking at the time, like, I want to direct.
Right.
And so I need to move up to keep moving up. And I looked at all of the people that were ahead of me at The Simpsons for a directing spot, and I was
Hmm.
like, man, if I stay at The Simpsons, it's going to be 10 years before I'm directing,
Right.
which seems like forever. And then I was thinking, and this like legit thoughts, I was like, I mean, they've done 7 seasons. Like, how many more can they have in them?
Oh,
Like,
hindsight is
oh
so
yeah, they're
hilarious.
still making them. And there are people that are on the show still now that were on the show when I was on it then, and
Right.
they've just had this like solid run of like never missing work. Like, I mean, there have been layoffs and hiatuses and stuff like that on The Simpsons,
Right.
but the fact that they're like into 35 years now, like there are people who started their career on that show and have worked their entire career on that show and then will retire on that show.
Exactly.
And I guess for me, like growing up building houses with my dad, we always like, you build a house, it's done.
Now you move on.
You go and you build another house somewhere else. And so like I guess that was sort of like programmed into my head that like, yeah, I did a season. Now it's time to do something else.
Right.
And So then, the same friend who had introduced me to Cal Arts was now working at Disney TV Animation as a
Hmm.
recruiter. And so I just called him up and I was like, "Hey, so thinking about like doing something else." And he's like, I could totally get you something over here, like just
Right.
like whatever you want to work on." And so again, they were like, "Do you want to do boards? Or do you want to do character layout?" And I was like, "Well, let me do character layout so I can get a handle of the show." I don't get bored. And so I was doing character layout on Timon and Pumbaa.
Yep.
This on The Simpsons, you had to do 15 scenes a week,
Oh
and
wow.
sometimes those scenes might have 15 poses in them, or they might have 15 characters in them.
Okay.
And then, on The Simpsons, it was 15 scenes a week, and on Timon and Pumbaa, it was 5 scenes a week.
Okay.
And they only wanted the poses that are in the board. Where on The Simpsons, like you were basically doing like the key poses for the animation. So
Okay.
you were really filling in all the blanks, and the boards had very little information in them, and it was more you working with the director to know what needs to happen in that scene. And So I was just flying through the layouts on Timon and Pumbaa,
Oh wow.
and um, and I was like, oh my god, like it's like I need to like slow down because it's like Monday and I've just finished my week's worth of work, and um, and then one of the other layout artists quit like in the middle of the run,
Okay.
and I was like, hey, I could pick up his stuff, as freelance. Like, oh my God, thank you so much. That would help us so much. And then I got like so fast at it that I was finishing my stuff and his stuff like by Wednesday.
Oh wow.
And then there was Nightmare Ned, which was like, where I was sitting, there was like a door that was like right behind me. If you went through that door and then went through that door, that's where Nightmare Ned was.
Okay.
And I had some friends that were working on Nightmare Ned, and they were like, "Oh, we're like short a layout artist. We need to like fill that spot." I was like, I could take that as freelance if you want. They're like, "Oh my God, that would help so much." So in my coming from The Simpsons with that pace,
Yep.
um, it was like when you're going like 100 miles an hour on the freeway, and then you get off the freeway, and then now you got to go like 25 miles an hour.
Yep.
So I was able to do like 3 weeks worth of work in a week. So I was making bank.
I can imagine.
And then there was like a board that they needed someone to fill, and I was like, oh, I did boards before. I've always meant to be doing boards, and so I sort of like put my hand up whenever there was a board opportunity.
Okay.
And then there was a show that was happening down at Sony. Sony Animation was like just getting started.
Right.
A show called Project Geeker.
Okay.
And so I went down there and I was doing a full board rotation for them too. But that was my nights and weekends was doing that board rotation. So I
Wow.
was basically doing the work of like four people every week. And then at the end of the Timon and Pumbaa time, there was like a development theme that came up, and this the head of development, or not head, he was just a director of development, had gone to Comic Con and he had secured the rights to this comic book. There was an independent creator. They had only done like two or three books, and so Disney gets the rights to your book to like to develop it. And I'm looking at this book, and I'm like, oh my God, that is 100% the Max. Like this dude just ripped off the Max and turned it into a different character, and that's 100% the Max. And you can even like find in the Max books, and like, look, that pose is that pose. Like he didn't even change the pose.
Right.
But like, whatever. They want me to develop this as a series. I'll develop it as a series. So we started developing it as a series, and someone on the show on Timon and Pumbaa had said, "Hey, if you're gonna develop something for them, like you need an agent because like
Okay.
they will screw you."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Well, I don't know any agents. Do you know an agent?" And so it just happened that like the production manager, her husband was Bill Kopp.
Okay.
And who like he's done a lot of stuff. At the time, he was very big, and I was like, okay, I'll just use his agent. And so I like that. It's just that easy. And so I end up getting an agent, and then the agent was like, they wanted to pay me my character layout rate to develop a show for them, and the agent was like, no, that's not how
No.
this works.
That's not how it should work.
Yeah, and so then they sent me out for they sent me over to Deke to interview for Mummies Alive,
Mm.
uh, and so I was like, okay, like I never thought about Deke as a place to work. Deke kind of had the reputation of like it's DIC, right? So everyone would say it's the acronym is Do It Cheap.
Oh, okay.
And So I go over there, and their head of development is outlining the show that they've got to do. It was just called Mummies at the time.
Right.
And he's like, so it's going to be like two episodes a week for all this time. It's a year and a half for 42 half hours. Two episodes a week. Then at a point, it's going to be three episodes a week. And so at one point in the schedule, about the middle of the schedule, you're going to be working on every episode at the same time.
Oh.
In some point of production. And because then like episodes are coming back two a week as you're still sending two or three a week.
Okay.
And so it means that like every week you're getting two premises, two outlines, two first drafts, two second drafts, two record drafts. Two shows are going into design, two shows are wrapping design, two shows are going into boards, two shows are wrapping boards, two shows are going into timing, two shows are coming out of timing, two shows are shipping, two shows are also coming back,
Jeez.
two shows are editing, two shows are mixing, two shows are onlining, two shows are delivering. While you're still doing all of those other things.
Yeah, for the other episodes
And
that are
so,
also somewhere
yeah,
along that
like you're still
timeline at
getting
some point.
premises for the ones that are like gonna, be coming back in 6 months. You're having to approve premises for those things. And so this was like a hellish, grueling schedule.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you think? Do you think you can handle it? And I was just like, yeah. Um,
I mean,
no hesitation,
because
just
like,
like poker face, like
because for you,
as though, yeah, yeah,
this was like your first directing opportunity. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So I
yeah.
imagine for you, you didn't want to like mess this up. It's like, okay, I'm finally here. Sure. Yeah. Let's do this. Let's do it. I want.
And, to be honest, I thought I do not have a chance in hell of getting this job. So bluffing is like is not going to be dangerous for me because I there's no way in hell they're going to give me this job. I've done boards,
Right.
but I haven't even like been on like as the board artist. I've like done a board here and there. Well, I did do all the Project Geeker boards, uh, but I hadn't like been like full time staff board artist.
Right.
And then I'm getting this like producer director opportunity. So I was like, yeah, sure, yeah, no problem. And then I was like talking to like the guys that I knew on Nightmare and Ed that had a lot more experience in the industry, and they were like, look, if they hire you for this and you completely crash and burn, it's their fault for hiring you because like you have no experience. So if you crash and burn, like you were given way too big of a responsibility way too early in your career, and so they're all like, I mean, this is going to be a trial by fire,
Of course.
but if you come out the other end of this and you're still there, then like you're golden.
Yeah.
And it was a trial by fire, and there were so many lessons learned, and so much like guerrilla filmmaking techniques that had to be learned, and all of that, that really informed everything that I would do in my career after that, in terms of like how you tackle a difficult production, and how you like get things back on track when they've gone crazy, and how you shuffle episodes when
Hmm.
episode 36 is like needs to be completely redone, but episode 37 and 38 are in better shape. Like you just shift it down and it buys you more time on that episode and stuff
Right.
like that. So it really like uh it was that trial by fire. It was like going to war and surviving combat, and then knowing how to like survive. So and it like helped in everything after that. And I like kind of feel like that Deke should really come back
Yeah.
as a school,
There you go.
and have it be like the school of hard knocks. That like if you can pull this off, if you can cut it here, you can cut it anywhere. You can do anything.
Yeah. If you can cut it here, every other job is gonna seem like a walk in the park.
It's gonna be a piece of cake. Yeah.
Like I can only imagine, like you said, for you, like you talk about just that trial by fire, and yet here you are right now with years of directing experience, like especially after the fact, and like working in that environment or whatnot. Like, do you think you? I mean, I feel like you kind of illustrate it, but do you think you would be the director that you are, or the animator that you are, without that experience?
No.
No.
Like no. Full stop. No. And I see like people that haven't had that experience, that are they're still successful, and
Yeah.
and wildly successful, and stuff like that. But I also see people that haven't gone through that when the shit hits the fan, they don't know what to do.
Right.
And they kind of freeze up, and and like everything has to pause, and we have to like figure this out, and like and like no, there's no time for that. Like you need to like pivot on a dime, and come up with a plan on the fly, and commit to that plan, and give your full effort into that plan. Like
Yeah.
there's no uh you know you can't not commit. I'm trying to think of
No, I was.
more PC ways of saying
I mean, I mean
can't
to
push
be,
it
I mean,
around.
to be fair, especially in a field like this one where there's so much time and commitment, like to every
Yeah,
individual thing in one form or fashion. Like you have to go, you can't half-ass it. You have to either go whole ass or no ass whatsoever. You know, like you have to be in
yeah,
there and figure out a way
yeah.
to
And
accommodate.
so that like needing to like know how to pivot, to know when to pivot, to know what is important, what isn't important. It helped on Dilbert.
Yeah.
It helped on Eight Crazy Nights.
Yep.
And even like all the way up to the last thing that I worked on, which was Barbie Mysteries, which was supposed to be 30 episodes. But Netflix and Mattel and there a whole like perfect storm of problems happening on that show.
Right.
That end up with me coming back in. I had been out because of an accident, and
Right.
when I came back in, the show had crashed and burned a couple of times, and so I had to come in and be like, okay, I know that this is how you guys were doing it, but like that's gone now, and this is how we're doing it now,
Exactly.
and I know that you guys were doing this, but now we're doing this. And I
Hmm.
know you were doing this, but now we're doing this. And this isn't up for debate. This is just what we need to do. And it was because of that experience at Deke, where I could just know, like, there's no bones about this. Like, there's a way that the sausage gets made, and I'm sorry that you're going to have to see how the sausage gets made, but this is how the sausage gets made.
Exactly.
And having to take a bunch of people that were doing their jobs for the first time and really show them, like, what needs to happen in order to like actually get it done. So
No, that I honestly, given how chaotic that the entire field of animation, even scenes on the outside for someone that has no experience in the field like myself, seeing someone that seeing that entire experience, having an experience like what you had with at Deke with Mummies Alive, like I can only imagine if more people in the animation industry had that kind of experience, like how different the industry probably would be at the end of the day.
yeah.
But I mean, regardless, like it also, I imagine that opportunity led to more open doors for you when it came to more directing opportunities, working on the likes of Family Guy, as well as you had mentioned Dilbert as well, which I always forget that there's a Dilbert animated series. I always forget
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. My associate producer on Mummies ended up going to Sony, and there was a guy who was an executive producer at Sony who had been at Deke, and he had been the showrunner for the real Ghostbusters.
Oh,
And
okay.
so he saw what I had done with Mummies at Deke, and he was like, if he could do that at Deke, imagine what he could do here.
Right.
And so. So that's when Dilbert comes in, and also I had been doing the boards for Project Geeker, so it's not like I was completely unknown down there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so then yeah, that led to that. And so then Dilbert was really like bringing the experience from Deke and the experience from The Simpsons like together,
Yeah.
because I really had to like The Simpsons is still going, right?
Of
So it's
course.
not like there's Simpsons people that are available to work on a new primetime show. And also at the time that Dilbert happened, like just for context, there was The Simpsons, there was The King of the Hill, there
Yep.
was a critic, but the critic was gone. And then
Unfortunately.
all of a sudden, there's The Simpsons, King of the Hill, Family Guy, Dilbert, Bob and Mike, or God, the Devil and Bob.
Yep.
I think like someone and Mike, Greg and Mike, maybe.
Some along the lines. I think I know what you're talking
The
about, but I can't think of the name.
PJs,
Yep.
uh, the Oblongs.
Yep.
Like I can't remember all of them, but I remember at the time that all of a sudden we went from two primetime shows to 13 primetime shows. It was like all of a sudden every network was like, we need primetime animation.
Yeah.
And then they did one show, and then all of the networks were like, we don't need primetime animation. And so Dilbert was, the flagship animated show for the UPN network, which
Yep.
doesn't exist
It does
anymore.
not exist anymore.
And they so I had to train a lot of people who were used to doing shows like Mummies, had to teach them how to do a show like The Simpsons. And so taking a lot of people that were like boys action directors and turning them into primetime directors.
Right.
Or people that had worked in other areas and like trying to like teach them about like what primetime animation is and what it isn't. And that stuff that you do for that children's show, that's not going to fly here because
No.
like, primetime show doesn't have the same requirements that show has. Like, that show, you need a lot of movement, you need like broad gestures, you need like silhouette value, like all of the things you learn in animation school. But for a primetime show, you don't need that. You need like acting. And simple staging, and timing. And you need to think about it more like a three camera sitcom show than like a single camera show. And So yeah, had to build a whole crew. We did season one was just a board show, and then
Mm-hmm.
we went from season one to season two. Like we became a layout show. So then had to get like a whole layout crew, and
Right.
so I pulled a Greg Vanzo trick, because like we couldn't go up to CalArts and just say, "Who wants a job?"
Right.
And also like we needed people to like actually be able to like do our layout test. So I went up to CalArts and I gave a class on character
Oh.
layout.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, and so just so you know, we're gonna leave these here, and you guys can do these and turn them in, and I'll give you feedback, and maybe we get a job. I didn't say that, but maybe you'll get a job. So this is the test. I'm gonna show you how to do the test, and then you do it and turn it in, and maybe you get a job. But we're not here to recruit. Because they were like, we have our producer show, we have our like portfolio review time, and I'm just like, I can't like go up there and have like it's Disney and Warner Brothers and like, and then here we are like this show that no one really knows about.
Yeah.
But then yeah, we went from having like a crew of 50 to having a crew of like 150
Yeah.
to like be able to do all the character layout. I have no idea how long we've been talking.
Oh, we've been talking for a while, and I've been enjoying every ounce of this conversation. We've been talking for at least an hour at this point. I can tell you right
Okay.
now. No,
All right.
I was gonna say, like it's that's incredible to hear, especially the fact that like you were able to go back to CalArts and be like, hey, so here's a thing. Hey, I kind
Yeah.
of need people as well. So just kind of, yeah, here you go. Just do this way.
Yeah.
I will also say, I said that I forgot that Dilbert is a show, but I also forgot that like I technically remember it because I have so on Discord you can have soundboards, and my
Uh-huh.
my entrance you can set it up to like whenever you enter a server you have like an entrance soundboard, and my entrance
Yeah.
soundboard is actually from the Dilbert show.
Down with the
Ah.
government!
What is that?
That was I forget what the exact episode was, but you had Tom Kenny playing it was like Dilbert was talking to like a congressional hearing or something along the lines of that,
Yeah.
and you had Tom Kenny voicing Rhode Island or whatnot, like a little tiny like person amongst them, and he's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know the one thing about such, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that we should listen to such and such, and then it ends the speech with "Down with big government." I believe it was from the second season. I
Yeah.
could be wrong. So,
So after the second season of Dilbert, we found out that we were canceled on the drive in, because we were listening to K Rock, like the local radio station,
oh my
and there's a
God,
guy,
what?
Ralph Garman. He does the movie beat, right? And so he was like the entertainment news guy, and he's like, and in TV news, Dilbert has been canceled after only two seasons. And I
That's
actually called K
unfortunate.
Rock, and I'm like, dude, like I haven't heard this. Like, what are you doing saying stuff? And he was like, sorry, man. Like, sorry that you like this is how you had to hear it, but I got it from I picked it up online. Like there was an article, and so I'm just reporting what I saw online. And so then we found out that like we thought we were doing 24 episodes for season two, and it got cut. Like the order got cut. So I think altogether we ended up doing like 30 episodes of Dilbert.
Okay.
And it was really because uh, the premiere episode of season one, like every commercial break on every radio station mentioned the season premiere of Dilbert,
Yeah.
right? And when you drove around town, like seriously, every billboard was Dilbert. On Sunset Boulevard, the full side of the building was a Dilbert, premiere
Yeah.
billboard,
They
right?
they pulled out all the
And then
stops with
after Dilbert,
marketing just to let people know, hey, watch Dilbert.
yeah, 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 yeah. And so that was all for the premiere, right?
Yep.
And then after the premiere, nothing.
Yep.
They stopped altogether, and Dilbert had like the highest premiere for a non Star Trek show
Yep. On
for their whole
UPN.
network, right?
Yep.
And then the next week it dropped, and then it dropped, and then it dropped, and then it dropped, and then it dropped,
Yep.
and it got to like season two. It was like uh, just a little blip in between commercials for Durista and Shasta McNasty, which those gems, right?
Yep. I
And they're
I,
like,
I only
and after
know.
the season premiere of Dilbert, stay tuned for and then that was the only mention
Yep.
of the premiere episode for the second season, and it was like, and then they got wrestling in the second season.
That's right.
Like
Yep.
UPN became like the WWE SmackDown channel,
Yeah.
and then that's why we have all of a sudden Stone Cold Steve Austin playing the judge in an episode.
Yep.
And it was just like, what the fuck? Like, we're living inside of a Dilbert episode now.
Goodness. That.
But
Yeah. That was certainly
like
something.
then Eight Crazy Nights came up like shortly after that.
Yeah. I was
And
gonna.
so then,
I was
on to that.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, yeah, like honestly, like yeah, it had to be. I imagine how heartbreaking it was to hear about obviously how Dilbert ended because it sounded like you had a good time on that show more than anything else, especially with the people you had on.
Good
But
time, great crew.
yeah,
Like, and also we were totally hitting our stride. Like,
yeah,
a third season would have been like, bam. But yeah.
but obviously when one door closes, another door opens wide open, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that's how you get to the thing that I think the most people that are probably watching this video, they're going to know you for one or two things, and we're going to talk about both. But I think a lot of people are probably going to know you as the director for Adam Sandler's Eight Crazy Nights. How exactly did this
Yeah.
opportunity even come to you in the first place?
So the guy who had done the real Ghostbusters, who was like, if he can do that, he can do this.
Right?
He was also the executive producer or supervising producer. Maybe he was executive producer on Dilbert.
Mm-hmm.
I think just supervising producer, because usually for that show they save executive producer credits for the writer showrunner.
Right.
But so he had gotten himself attached to a Crazy Nights, separate of Sony Animation.
Okay.
And so he had been talking to me about it, and he was talking to me about a sequence director job. And there was a director from The Simpsons that he was giving it's not like he was giving the job, like, but it was the person that he was putting up for the job and like backing. Uh, and um, and at the time I was like, I mean, like if it was Brad Bird was the director, then I feel like I could learn something from Brad Bird, and not that I couldn't learn something from the Simpsons director. Like I had worked with him on the
Right.
Simpsons. And I was just like, but like he's not even in the regular director rotation on The Simpsons. And so like he had directed, like maybe less than 10 episodes of The Simpsons at that point. And by that point, I had done 72 episodes of TV, like as between the 42 of Mummies and the 30 Dilbert. And then all my friends were like, just get on it, like, just show your stuff and just get on it.
Right.
And so I, like that Friday, I called the producer, and I'm like, okay, so yeah, I'll take if I can have the sequence director job, I'll take the sequence director job. Um, and so weekend goes by, and then I get a call on Monday morning from the producer, and he's like, "Have you left for work?" Or he's like, "You're not leaving for work yet, right?" Because I think he just called my house. I mean,
Okay.
cell phones were a thing, but I think he just called my house.
Right.
Maybe he called my cell phone. And he's like, "Sit tight, don't go into work. I might need you to come up to Sandler's house today."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And come to find out that the guy that was going to do the job had, like, they gave him the job on Friday, and then they fired him Monday morning because they asked him to do some stuff over the weekend, and he had like personal plans like already in place, and then
Okay.
mentioned that we were going to have like more of his personal stuff was going to happen. He was going to need some time off, and they were like, "Fuck you! Why didn't you say this when we hired you? You're fired." Uh, and and so then I got to go up to, I was called to go up to Sandler's house. And so now I'm one of many directors that they're meeting with for the thing.
Okay.
And and so I knew that it was the Whitey track from the Stan and Judy's Kid album.
Right.
Uh, and um, and I had already done like a lot of like character designs and stuff for it, like on Dilbert, without any like feedback from them. I was just like listening to the track and then trying to design a character that I thought would work for that.
Right. Right.
Um, and um, and then yeah, I got to go up and meet Sandler, and like I could tell from the Stan and Judy's Kid, and then also like just being like I was a huge Sandler fan. Like I remember the theater that I saw Billy Madison in, and I
Right.
saw Happy Gilmore in, and I was the guy that was repeating the lines from the movies, and like you're right, I'm wrong, you're smart, I'm stupid. Uh, you know, um, so yeah, it was like dream to be able to like go up there and meet him. And I also knew that he wore Timberlands, and so I wore my Timberlands.
Oh, there you
And
go.
I feel like that like had I was in, with from the shoes.
There you go.
But also he had his dad was an electrician, and my dad was a contractor, and so we had like that kind of in common.
Yeah.
And Or his dad was an electrical engineer, and my dad, architect contractor, but so we had that same kind of like working class like background in common.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah.
I mean, regardless, even just getting that first opportunity and what seems like another like random crazy just chance meeting at the end of the day, just being like,
Yeah.
hey, you haven't left your house? Okay, go to Sandler's house. This is happening for you
Yeah.
more than anything else. Like to go from that to being the person that spearheads, a feature starring Adam Sandler with so many different voices, with an incredible crew for a beautifully done film, which I know you've heard a million times over, with a film that has, despite all the gross out humor and jokes that people are gonna point at and laugh at or whatnot, like has a true heart behind it more than anything
Yeah.
else. Like it had to
Yeah.
be so surreal to even get a chance to play in that playground, let alone be the guy leading the charge for it.
100%. Very surreal. Yeah. And also like I kind of knew like because they had fired that guy that like I had like it's like my neck had been cleared and there was someone with the axe ready to just bring it down. So I've said that it was like the first few months of directing on that, I feel like I was doing it from the bed of the guillotine, and that they had a hand on and at any point like they could just um, but but yeah, very surreal to like meet him and talk to him and just kind of like shoot the shit, and like how like just genuine he was.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm like super starstruck because like I wanted to I don't do I call him Adam Sandler every time I like excuse me Adam Sandler and also like then you go like around his guys because he has got like a tight knit group of friends that he just are with him,
Yeah, right.
and they all call him Sandler or Sandman or Sandu, or like they've all got a nickname that they but like his parents who I met also it was like on my third time going up to his house. I met his parents, and he
Okay.
was like, "This is the real interview." And I was like, "Okay." And so I sat down and talked to his parents for an hour,
Nice.
as though it was the real interview. Like because I get it, like and also I play really well with parents.
There you go.
So I like I know how to be respectful and like that.
Oh
I
yeah.
just cleaned my glasses and made them worse.
No, I get that. Look, as someone that also wears glasses, I know how that is.
Yeah.
uh,
All right. And So, flash forward to like the first time we're like recording, and like I'm sitting in the room with Adam Sandler, and he's doing the voice of this character that he wrote, and he's the producer, and then I'm gonna give him direction.
right.
What am I doing here? But then, like I found my voice and, kind of like I didn't want to like come in super heavy-handed, partially because, that could be me getting fired if I had too strong of an opinion. Like,
Right.
I don't know that it would have, but I wasn't going to test the water. I definitely wanted to like, make him feel comfortable with me, and, that I wasn't just like there to sort of like pump my ego,
Of course.
and that I wasn't going to say something unless I felt like it was like a real issue, and then we gradually like developed a rapport where like then I forgot about that he's Adam Sandler, and he was just became Adam,
Yeah.
and and then we'd have like very real conversations, and he was just like a very down to earth guy, and uh, then there were moments where we'd be out somewhere, like whether it was like we took a trip to Vegas one time to
Oh.
like see the Super Bowl at the Hard Rock,
Oh, okay.
um, and we're like walking through the lobby of the Hard Rock, and like everyone is like,
Is that Adam Sandler?
like, what? Like, why is everyone looking at us like what is wow, what's going on? Why is everyone looking? Why is it? Oh, right, that's Adam Sandler.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
that's why everyone is looking. That's Adam Sandler. They're not looking at us. They're looking at him. Uh, but yeah, and it very much felt like like I had joined a fraternity, with Happy Madison, and because it was all like, his buddies from way back that were all like part of the company, and
hmm
so yeah,
No, I mean, like, even then, just that aspect of it is so weird and surreal. And then you get to the actual, like, film itself and the kind of put together such a unique take on, like, the holiday classic in one form or fashion. And to put that out there into the world,
yeah,
like, that had to be, again, like, it, I know I'm overusing this word like way too much in this interview, but it has to be like super like surreal or at least unreal to think that like, hey, I actually got to put something out like this. Especially now looking
yeah.
in hindsight to see how people are looking on the film and have these like weird nostalgia glasses for it. Like, is it weird to think of the
Yeah.
legacy that the movie has had both then and now?
Definitely when we were putting it out, I wasn't thinking that, in 23 years we would still be talking about the movie. I also wasn't thinking that in 23 years I wouldn't have directed another movie. Like, I very
Yeah.
much want to direct another movie. And at the time when we were making it, we were like, it was a conscious effort to make it feel like a classic.
Right.
And so, that's the approach to the background style, the approach to the character design style, the approach to the animation style, was all like make this feel like this movie has already been made, like was already made a long time ago, and we're just like releasing it now.
Yeah.
Uh, Despite like all of the poop jokes and fart jokes and like all of that. And it was a real effort to make you care about these characters,
Yeah.
I always felt like that, if you can make people cry, then you can make them laugh even harder,
Exactly.
so if you can like tug at the heartstrings, then you're making people care about this character that doesn't actually exist, and it's only the art and the voice, and yet it's real to people, real enough that they're going to have like an emotional reaction to it. So all of that has been amazing, and just like I was saying before, that I can get like what how Sam feels about the Max, because I have felt that way about Eight Crazy Nights,
Right.
where in the beginning, first of all, I finished the movie 9 months before it came out.
Right.
So I finished all my parts, and so for 9 months,
You're just kind of sitting there wondering how people are going to take it.
well, yeah, how's it going to be received? But also for 9 months, I'm going to like meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting because like I've got this movie coming out, right? So
Yeah.
like all of a sudden, any development executive at any production company or any studio, like I'm a worthwhile person to have on their weekly meetings list because I have this movie coming out. And so, I was literally some days I'd have like two meetings before lunch and two meetings after lunch, and maybe I've got like a dinner or drinks that night also.
Mm-hmm.
Met all like, such a broad spectrum of the entire industry. And a lot of them were just meeting because I had this movie coming out,
Yeah.
and they had nothing to do. They didn't have anything that fit me, but I was having these meetings. And then when the movie came out, it was kind of crushing a little bit, actually, because like people in talk about it like we got our asses handed to us.
Right.
But like we came out Thanksgiving Day against a new Potter, a new Bond, a new Santa Claus movie, and a new Disney 2D feature.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we came in fifth place behind all of those giants but we actually beat Treasure Planet on a per screen basis.
Right.
We were just on 1,000 more screens than we were. And we also Treasure Planet I think was $160 million, and we were $34 million.
Exactly.
So we were in profits way before they were. I don't know exactly when because I'm not involved in any of that part of it. But I think like within the first year, like the movie was profitable.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if now if Treasure Planet is profitable.
I feel like now
Who's
with
to say?
DVD sales and maybe like streaming, things or what I may have turned a profit at this point. But I again, that's above even my own
Hey,
pay grade, knowing how that
yeah,
kind of stuff works. Regardless, like,
yeah.
yeah,
So, and then also, like, I made the mistake of reading all of the reviews.
yeah,
And so then I just kind of like, had this like period of like depression about it. And it was just like, what the, like, even though like most of the reviews would say great things about like the animation and how it
right,
looked and stuff like that. And then I just realized like now in hindsight that a lot of that is just Sandler bashing.
exactly,
And that, people just like to bash Sandler. Uh, and, um, and then there starts to be a point like around when the Nostalgia Critic did his thing,
yep,
where I was just like, like by that point, it was like it had been 15 years or something like that.
hmm
And he posted that, and someone sent it to me, and I just did a one-word response to his post. I just said hilarious. And then that blew up like, oh my God, the director of Eight Crazy Nights. And and so then Doug uh, DM'd me on Twitter. He's
okay,
like, "Hey man, sorry, I'm the guy that like just shit all over your movie." And so we actually had like a call, and then I kind of like described like some of the I agree with some of the things that you're saying.
right,
Like I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. But when you take like a big steamy dump on an animated film, you're shitting on hundreds of artists who worked their asses off to just get those frames on screen.
right, right,
And like maybe you could just dial back the hate just a little bit.
hmm
And then he actually, it's not like he did like an apology video, but like in the next video when like his co-host started dumping on A Crazy Night Skin. He was like, "Well, actually, I talked to the director, and like he's a really nice guy, and like he kind of like uh, helped me see it in a different light,
Yeah.
and so then he stopped. And then and then it started to be like every year around the holidays, some other asshole would want to take a dump on it,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, "Yay, great, here we go." 17 years later, some idiot that's never done anything wants to share his opinion with something that I did, like
Yep. Yep.
and
Yep.
then people kind of started like rallying behind that and going like, yeah, like why, like for how long are we going to dump on this movie?
Hmm.
And then people started coming forward with stories about, and I'm like, every time I tell this story, I can't help but get emotional about it.
That's fair.
But this was like the real turning point for me with the film. I have had like half a dozen different people separately, like DM me on Twitter, and oh my god,
You got this. You got this.
and tell me about that how in 2002 they lost a parent, um, and they went to see a Crazy Nights. Oh my god,
Oh, you're good. It's okay.
ah,
It's okay.
why is this so like raw? Um, and um, and now they watch it every single year to memorialize that lost loved one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like especially with the film that you guys put out there, and like that being a major point of the story itself. I can only imagine like when you were in there like working like on the film itself, that wasn't exactly in the forefront of your thoughts or whatnot. Like that wasn't the thing that you guys were like. You were hoping to put a good time out there for people. You didn't think how much of an impact it had on people, especially now hearing in hindsight. I can imagine how something that at one point you didn't know what your relationship was with it, given how everyone else treated it at one
Yeah,
point, to hear the positivity out of it, to hear that it did a lot of good for a lot of
yeah,
people, and that it means so much to them. I'm getting emotional just trying to talk to you about it. I get it.
yeah. Well, and then hearing about people that like there are many groups that watch it every night of Hanukkah,
Yeah.
like as a group, all watch it together every night of Hanukkah, and so it has this like Rocky Horror Picture Show like following now,
Yeah.
and it's just like and I remember thinking about like the opening weekend and what we made and stuff like that. And also I think about like I went to I went to opening night. I was visiting my sister in Seattle, and we went
Mm-hmm.
to like they live outside of Seattle, and we went to like their local small town movie theater, and that's where I saw it in the theater for the first time.
Okay.
Um, and and then I came back, and like I think like the next weekend I went to see it in like my theater, and it was like the 10 o'clock show or something like that, and like there were like five people in the theater, and I was just like,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
but then I think about like how many how many people like paid to go see the movie. And that there were people that liked it. So now that's just sort of like built over the years, and like people have like seen it for the first time on TV, or they've
Mm-hmm.
seen it, and like every year it's playing somewhere. And like this year, it's a little like different because I'm introducing the movie at for American Cinematheque.
Okay.
In Los Feliz at the Los Feliz 3, which was a theater that I would have gone to while making the movie to see other movies.
There you go.
Um, uh, and um, and then now Regal, they have it in theaters.
Okay.
So like on the 15th, it's in Regal theaters. And then someone sent me a picture the other day of another theater that is doing it. So like all of a sudden now it's back in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And So that's kind of cool that like this much time later, my daughter's giving me eyes because she wants to come play League. Um, um, but that all this many years later, that it's back in theaters. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I mean it's weird the unique legacy that is had, especially up to this point. Like I know I kind of illustrated it earlier by saying, hey, but my mom used to have it on VHS, and I just watch it
Yeah,
over and over again, even when it wasn't like Christmas or Hanukkah time. Just like it's that kind of just funny movie for child me. But even then, like
yeah, yeah,
looking back on, especially as I was preparing for this interview, like watching it or whatnot, like I had that like nostalgia hit more than anything else, and like especially
yeah,
looking at the stories and looking at it on a different level or whatnot. Like you guys really did craft like a very unique piece. More than anything else, and I'm glad that you guys were able to put that out there in the world, and especially hearing you talk about it, kind of the impact that it's had on especially a modern society. Whether it be people actually enjoying the message or like the fun memes that come out because of it more than anything else. I mean, I can only imagine for you
yeah,
how many times you've seen people memeing on the bomb bitty 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 bomb bomb
yeah,
sequence
yeah,
part of it more than anything else. Uh,
yeah.
um,
There
I
was also that a couple of years ago, the DVD cover that I did of Davey throwing the snowball at
yeah,
camera, like that became a thing, and people kept doing like
yeah,
their versions of that. It was really cool. So yeah,
that's really cool, and I also appreciate that even after all this time, like I said, you had a complicated relationship with it, but here you are, like embracing it more so now than more than ever, and like getting
yeah,
people more or less on board. Like it's really cool
yeah,
the legacy that's had, and I also appreciate that it led to some other incredible opportunities. One of which, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to break your heart when I mention this one or whatnot, but
uh,
it led to the weird opportunity to go from there to work on a potential Kingdom Hearts animated pilot. how
yeah.
did how did you even get attached to that in the first place, and why are we not only talking about this as potential animated pilot and not picked up for series? Because I imagine there's a lot of people that are watching this right now and are like, they are saddened that it's like we could have had this in our childhood and it would have been peak.
Yeah. So like how I end up doing it is had been telling my agent at the time, I'd been talking a lot about American anime, and like I felt like the Max was kind of American anime.
Oh yeah, especially with the styles that it was
And
providing. Yeah.
yeah. And like that's like I really wanted to make like something that's kind of like American anime. And I was just kind of like inventing a term. But then you can like kind of point to different things that like Powerpuff Girls is kind of American anime.
Oh yeah.
It's very anime influenced. And so, they were like, well, there's this project at Disney. There's a video game that came out that sort of mixes like the classic characters, classic Disney characters with anime characters. And I was like, well, yeah, cool. Let me check that out. So like I said, I had like meeting after meeting like everywhere. And so this was like, sure, that's another meeting. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, and so I met with them, and they were wanting to do this pilot, and it was sort of like the end of their like development cycle for that time, and so they needed it to kind of be done kind of quickly. And I was like, well, let me play the game and see like if it sparks my imagination. And so. I was basically just playing Grand Theft Auto all day, every day anyway. Like I'd go to meetings, come back, play Grand Theft Auto. Go to
Yep,
meeting, come back, play Grand Theft Auto.
that's fair.
And so I just swapped that out with Kingdom Hearts, and I ended up finishing the game in about a week.
Okay.
And then I read the script, and I was like, the script is not the game. Like the script read like a Scooby Doo episode where the characters from Kingdom Hearts were the guests, for the episode.
Right.
So it read like an episode of Aladdin co-starring the characters from Kingdom Hearts. And so I was able to get to like do a rewrite with the writer and all of that. And yeah,
Yeah, and
I
then
feel like I've said this so much.
no, I know, and like,
The
look,
pilot we did like 23 years ago.
no, I know, and like I feel bad for having you to like say this like over and over again, because I will say I'm gonna make sure to link your YouTube channel in the description of this video, because I want people to go there to see both more of an in-depth of you talking about both Eight Crazy Nights, but also like your experience when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, because I know like especially talking about like it had to be so it's so crushing to like invest in something that I imagine there was a lot of hype for, but also like given
Yeah,
the weird conflicting like creative forces that were above you when it comes to like, oh, we might be doing
yeah.
more games.
There was actually no hype for it.
Oh, really?
It was a game that did well, but no one was like freaking out. And like I was a gamer and I hadn't really heard about Kingdom Hearts.
Right, right.
And So, I was very excited about it because, the fact that it would be like linear storytelling. And, when I was doing Mummies, I was watching what the Japanese directors were able to do with a show like Digimon,
Okay.
where like if you die in the game, you die for real. Like that's like real world consequences
Absolutely.
that we didn't get to do. And so that's part of what I was like, the American anime is that like the anime directors get to do things that we just don't get to do because they're given more free reign where we have like an army of executives that are all like second guessing everything that we do. And so even to just do like um, a season long story arc would have been groundbreaking at the time.
Absolutely.
Totally common for anime, but was just not being done. And especially not being done at Disney. I mean, the last time they did that was the Gargoyles.
Yeah.
And, they felt like it was a production nightmare because you couldn't swap the episode orders. It had to come out of the machine in the same order that went into the machine. And so
Right.
it kind of like gums up the work sometimes. So yeah, I just thought like this could be huge, and also like the fact that the first game goes to like Aladdin and Hercules and Pooh, and Little Mermaid, that these were shows that you've already done entire series in these worlds.
Exactly.
And so we've already got like all of those designs done. So the production value on the show automatically would be so much higher because we don't have to invent all of these worlds. They all exist.
Yeah, exactly.
And even with the pilot, I was able to go to the archives
Hmm.
and pull like actual backgrounds from Aladdin and get scans of those backgrounds and actually use that in the animatic. And so same thing. I would do the same thing for if we were to do the show, let's go to the archives and see what kind of backgrounds we can get from Pooh and Mermaid and Hercules and Tarzan and all of that.
Yeah.
So it would have just elevated the show so much, and just and then it tested better than anything else that they were testing in that round. But they decided to not move forward because there was another game that was in the works,
Yeah.
and there was a lot of concern about upsetting Nomura, and so that's why it kind of gets shelved, and kind of the only reason why I sort of like leaked it was because I almost died in a car accident,
Yeah.
and that was something that I was really proud of that no one ever got to see,
Exactly.
and so I just figured like it's been 23 years, like what's the big deal?
Exactly.
But
Well,
they definitely were not happy with that.
I mean, especially back then, like it's so weird. But I'm glad you did get the opportunity to have an audience even get a hint of that when you did show the animatic like to the world
Yeah.
or whatnot, and people got the chance to get super excited about it, especially how much more Kingdom Hearts grew from when you had worked on it to when you released it and
Yeah,
whatnot.
which I had no idea. And along the way, like at one point, back when DeviantArt was the only place where you could like share your art,
Yep.
I had a DeviantArt page, and like I would post stuff, and it'd get like a couple of eyes on it, and then I was like, oh, you know what? I've got these like Kingdom Hearts boards that I'm like super proud of. So I'm just gonna post like you know kind of excerpts of like the panels that I was the most fond of. And like all of a sudden that gets like thousands of views.
Yep.
Where like and it was really only then that I was like, oh wait, oh there's more games.
Oh
Oh
yeah.
okay. Because when it didn't go, then I was like, I've always described it as being kind of like that. That the girl that you meet at summer camp that you have sort of like it's like your summer camp girlfriend, and then like summer camp ends and you guys go your separate ways, and
Yeah.
like so I don't know like what other guys she dated, and so it was the same thing with Kingdom Hearts. It's like after the first game, like I wasn't even thinking about I poured so much of myself into the animatic, and into like trying to get them on board to do that thing. And
Yeah.
then when it didn't go, then I was just like, all right. So, I don't want to say it was dead to me, but it was kind of dead to me, until people were like, freaking out about different things.
Yeah. Well, I'm also curious because, like I said, now there's so much more lore that you could that could be garnered from it. That if Disney really wanted to do like a Kingdom Hearts series now,
Yeah,
there's so much that they can go off of in the past, 20 years that the series
yeah,
has been out
sure.
there. If they were
Also,
to
like they didn't own Marvel then, they didn't own Star Wars then. Like
exactly,
those are like which I don't know. Have they gone into Marvel
I
or
don't
into the Star Wars universe?
I don't think they've gone to either or. I think like the closest they've gone like outside of like the normal realms of like what
Yeah,
for Disney is like when they introduced like a Toy Story world in the third one.
right.
They
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
went there, but like I think that's like the most outside when it comes to like again a Star Wars or a Marvel that you're gonna get at this
yeah,
point.
yeah,
And there is a
yeah.
fourth game in development, so maybe it could go to one of those
Yeah, I know.
ones.
I keep hearing about this fourth game, but it's like for years it's going to come out. Next year is going to be the year.
Look
Okay,
as
not next year, but next year. Okay, not next year, but next year.
congratulations, you've been duped into the Kingdom Hearts like I guess like fantasy like delusion because it took
Yeah,
years for the third one to even come out in the first place. So it's like
yeah.
who knows how long it's gonna be before the fourth one even comes out. Um, yeah, you never know. But
People wait all that time.
exactly. But as I was gonna ask, like
Yeah,
obviously with how much lore is now like invested in there and how much properties you can potentially work with, if Disney was to come up to you and be like, "Hey, we know you had this idea like back in the day." You already said yes.
yeah.
I basically yeah. If
It's,
given this
it's
opportunity,
the same for me as the Max. Like yeah, in a heartbeat. I don't think that's going to happen though.
yeah,
Because I feel like that. If after doing that pilot that I went on to do like the Last Airbender, then that would increase the odds that that might happen. Or if
mm,
I had just come off doing Arcane, then that would
yeah,
increase the odds of that happening. But I don't see them like coming at me for that. So
I mean,
I don't even think about it. Of course, I would love to do that. Like, and
right,
I'm as passionate about it now as I was then, and would be as respectful of it now as we were of the Max comic book when we did the animated series. Like,
oh yeah,
it's always like, why change this thing that so many people love? That's the reason why we're doing this thing, because so many people love that thing that was done. So why is it that we always change that thing when we like all of a sudden we get our hands on it and it becomes something else? Like let's just honor what it was, and sort of lift it up, from what it was, instead of like tearing it down to make it something new. And then, but yeah, I don't see them coming to me for that.
I mean, you never know, especially with how weird and wild this industry even is in the first place. I mean, I would at least like to wish they want you involved in some form of matter, because in fact that like you had mentioned before,
Yeah.
you've devoted so much when you were first trying to make this thing a reality in the first place. So
Yeah, I don't think they care.
that's fair. But I mean, it's not like it's at least again, it's also good to know that it wasn't like that was the death nail in your animation journey more than anything else. The fact that you made that you didn't do it, you had several incredible opportunities even after Kingdom Hearts was a thing. I know I
Yeah.
mentioned some of it in the intro, but like I have a list right here of some certain things that like I'm surprised that you even had a chance to work on it. Like you worked on Phineas and Ferb, Looney Tunes show.
Yeah.
You were executive producer for Brown and Friends and Slacker Cats, which again I forgot that was even a series.
Yeah.
Like I'm wondering like there are so many
Well, Family Guy also is after Kingdom Hearts.
yeah Family Guy as well.
Yeah.
I mean like Is it so weird to think of like all the opportunities you've been able to have just even up to this point? Like, where are some of the other like weird and surreal opportunities that you can think of when it comes to working in the animation industry in general?
Oh, You know, it's less weird and surreal, like looking back on it.
Okay.
At the time when it was happening, it was like, yeah, okay. Because when I did Family Guy, it just feels like it kind of just makes sense, like the Simpsons background, the Dilbert background. But then when you like learn about some of the behind the scenes of that, it makes even more sense because the producer of Family Guy produced Dilbert.
Oh,
Um, you know,
okay.
um, and she also was producer on Eight Crazy Nights at the beginning.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And then the production manager or the associate producer on Family Guy was one of my. She was like the retakes coordinator for Eight Crazy Nights.
Okay.
Then a lot of the directors that were on Family Guy, I either had worked with on other shows or I had gone to school with. And so the supervising director, like Peter Shen and James Purdom, we were at CalArts at the same time. And the director that I met for the first time there was Dan Povenmire.
Yeah.
And when I was watching all of the episodes of Family Guy to kind of like get myself up to speed, because I watched every episode, but
Mm.
and his really stood out to me. And so I went and had a conversation with him where I was like, man, your episodes really like set the bar high. And he was like, oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And I was such a huge fan of Eight Crazy Nights. And so, we had this sort of like mutual appreciation. The way I end up working on Phineas and Ferb is that after Slacker Cats, after my time at Family Guy, I did like a few other like primetime pilots
Right.
that didn't go, and then Slacker Cats that went. Um, and um, and then after Slacker Cats, the industry kind of like collapsed a little bit because to the 2008 recession.
Yeah, and also like the when
And
the writer strikes around that time as well.
There were writer strikes also,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
And so I had worked for this kind of like crooked person who said that they had a whole series for me to do,
Mm.
and said that I was like, well, I have to be union, because I have like some babies in the oven, and I need like the health insurance.
Of course. Of course.
And she's like, yeah, of course, no problem. Like, we'll subcontract a portion of the work through your studio, and then you can go union with your studio, and we'll stay non-union, and that's how you get your union benefits and all that stuff. And I'm like, great, that sounds great. And then go to finish the pilot, and she hadn't actually like signed a contract with me for the rest of the show.
Oh.
And so my lawyer kind of like leaned in on her and was like, you are so bad at your job that you haven't even had Seth sign a work for hire agreement, so you actually don't own the rights to the work that he's done
Okay.
until you get him to sign that work for hire agreement. And then she got off the phone with him and fired me. Um,
Damn.
and
Damn.
and so then that was like a whole thing, but like because of the time that I spent working on that show, like I had this lapse of union hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found myself in a position where I needed like, that block of hours. And I think it came out to like 8 weeks would be like, enough to sort of get the union insurance back. And so I reached out to Dan. I was like, I need some union work. And he's like, come work on Phineas and Ferb.
Yeah.
And so I've worked on Phineas and Ferb a couple of times, really because of that, because of like the relationship with Dan and the mutual respect, and then him just saying, "Yeah, come on in."
Yeah.
And so there's a possibility that I might be going on to Phineas and Ferb again.
Yeah.
He's mentioned it, but it hasn't happened. So and it would be great.
I like to hope you get an opportunity because like that show is always a seems like a fun, unique one. Plus, like again, your connection with Dan does seem really cool. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
tend to forget that Dan used to work on Family Guy at one point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We work on a lot of things, but yeah, people only think about Phineas and Ferb.
Yep.
And so, what was the other thing that you mentioned?
I had mentioned as well, like the fact you got to work on the Looney Tunes show and you were executive producer for a
Hmm.
show called Brown and Friends that premiered on Netflix.
Yeah, so Looney Tunes show, I had been doing around the same time that I was doing the stuff for Phineas and Ferb. I was also doing boards for Warner Brothers, kind of the same thing to get the union hours, so I could like keep the insurance and all that.
Yeah.
So I did boards on Mystery Inc. And DC Superhero Girls
Mm-hmm.
and so then when the Looney Tunes show came up, because I had the primetime background and the writers were more prime time, then that's where they had me come in and meet about that show, and I just sort of immediately got what it was that they were trying to do with the characters, and could immediately see why the people that they had working on the show who were more like came from like Tiny Toons, path
Yeah.
within like the Looney Tunes universe, and they were doing more classic Looney Tunes where they wanted primetime Looney Tunes,
Mm-hmm.
and so I could see like how we could like sort of bridge the gap between classic and primetime, so that's how that all came about, and then what was the other one?
No, no, you're good.
Sorry.
I did at least want to ask real quickly. Is it like thinking back to once again like your journey as well? Does it weird to think of like how many like intellectual properties you've had a hand with in one form or fashion? Like you got a chance to work on The Simpsons, you got to work
Yeah,
with Disney characters,
yeah,
you've had to work with the Looney Tunes or whatnot. Like it's weird to think that you have an opportunity like to even again tinker in
yeah,
those worlds.
yeah. Yeah. And also, now for me, like, when I started down this path, coming from the mindset of that kid that grew up with an architect contractor who like drew the plans and built the house and drew the plans and built the house.
Yeah.
And so I always thought that I would do my own thing. And I always thought that like, oh, I'll work on that. And then they'll be like, well, what do you have to do? What's your show that you want to do? And that I would, work for that group of people, and then I would do the thing for them, and they'd be like, "Ah, thank you for doing that. Now, what do you want to do?"
Right.
And so, now I'm like, it's like 31 years of doing things for other people, like working on that IP and that IP and that IP and that IP, and even, IP where like they had nothing. They
Mm-hmm.
had some characters. They didn't really even have a premise. And then you sort of get that like, wadded up ball of Christmas lights, and you've got to untangle it and find the ones that are broken, and then get it to work, and then and then everyone's like, oh my god, the thing, and like so flash forward to my accident, and all of a sudden I'm like, I have all of these things that have been living inside my head that just almost died with me,
Yeah.
and I've spent all this time making IP for other people. It's time for me to make some IP for myself, and so that's why, like now, doing the Neverwonderland book,
Yeah.
which was something that I wanted to do after Eight Crazy Nights. I was actually like developing it while I was on the sound stage mixing Eight Crazy Nights. That's some of the
Okay.
earliest development art that I did for it. And then Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland was announced, and I was like, okay, so Tim Burton's going to do Alice in Wonderland. I can't really do Alice in Wonderland now, but now it's been a long time. Like I think people, maybe even have forgotten that Tim Burton did Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
And so now I'm, like really putting everything into doing that. And the fact that the animation industry is in the toilet again, the silver lining of that is that I have time to work on my own thing.
Yeah. And
I'm kind of working on it like at a mad pace. Just thinking that like if I don't work at this like mad pace, that a job's going to come along, and it's going to take me away from it, and then I'll never get it done. And so
right.
I'm kind of working on it like as quickly as I can to get it out into the world. Not just because I'm worried that a job's going to come along and take that time away from me, but that maybe that's the job. Maybe that's the next job
Yeah.
is, someone finally going, you know what? You have all of this experience and now you can apply that experience to your own thing. And so for me, a little bit, like I'm not saying that it's like an epic graphic novel that I'm doing,
Right.
but a little bit for me, Never Wonderland is like my Nausicaa.
Yeah.
Miyazaki was tired of the work that was coming his way, and it was like planting a flag and saying, "This is what I want to do," and so that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Hopefully like people will like spark to it and become something. And then if it doesn't, I have like a dozen different ideas in my head that have just been percolating in my head for all of this time that I want to get out into the world. So I'm going to finish a graphic novel for that, and then I'm not just going to sit around and wait for like is something going to happen with that. I'm immediately going to start on to the next book because I'm not getting any younger.
I
you
mean,
know
yeah, no, it's
like
exactly.
time's ticking. 31 years went by like that.
Yeah.
None of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
No.
And if there's something that you really want to do, you really need to start it today.
Yeah.
There's no preparation time. Like just start it. You're gonna suck at first. You're gradually gonna get better. And then that thing that you've always wanted to do is gonna be out there in the world, and
Yeah.
not in your head.
No, exactly. I'm so glad you brought up because that was honestly gonna be the next thing I did want to bring up because from what you're telling, Never Wonderland, which is this amazing concept in the first place or whatnot, I saw like little inklings of it like on your social media and stuff, and like I was immediately like enticed and like intrigued with what you got developing. And I'm so glad that especially after all this time, and especially like you said after the accident that could have taken your life in an instant, like
Yeah.
luckily you were able to get out of it and still live your life. Now you're actually taking the steps to make this a reality. For people that may have no idea
Yeah.
what we were even talking about in the first place when you bring up Never Wonderland, how would you describe the concept of Never Wonderland?
So it's a modern reimagining of the Alice in Wonderland story, where our Alice is the great granddaughter of the original inspiration for the Lewis Carroll books, Alice
Oh,
Liddell.
okay.
And so our Alice, with her mom, find themselves in a position where they have to move back into the Liddell family estate,
Mm-hmm.
which is now like a Victorian mansion that's in ruins. So they go, and Alice says, well, my life's over. I might as well live 6 feet under. And so she chooses the basement as her room. And in the basement, she finds a handwritten manuscript for Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.
And reading that transports her to Wonderland. But it's a very different
Oh,
Wonderland than her great grandmother went to, because the King of Spades overthrew the Queen of Hearts when the last Alice left Wonderland.
right.
And now he's banned Wonder from the land and put a bounty on the head of any Alice that might return.
Okay.
And so she finds herself landing in this very dark, very oppressive world where she's immediately being hunted. And she has no idea how she got there. She has no idea how she's going to get out, and has to kind of navigate this world. And it's a bit of a mashup of the two books. So instead of like Humpty Dumpty, that's in one of the books, and then Tweedledee and Tweedledum, which is in the other book, it's Humpty Dee and Dumpty Dum.
TD and Dumpty.
Instead of
That's a great name. I love that.
and instead of the Cheshire Cat and the caterpillar, it's the Cheshire Caterpillar.
Okay. Okay.
And it's also a little bit of an homage to the cat bus from Totoro.
Yes.
And so yeah, kind of like turning some things on their head, like instead of being like little blonde girl, she's like a little goth girl.
Yeah.
The Also the title Never Wonderland is a little bit my younger self, kind of putting a thorn in my side, because uh, the phrase "never wonder" is the message. Like, never wonder what it's like to do your own thing.
Hmm.
So doing this is fulfilling that, and so it has a different meaning for me than it does for the story.
Yeah, how did you even come up with this idea in the first place? Because I mean, obviously, like the origin is the classic, Alice in Wonderland. But
Yeah.
to think about like taking it and flipping it on its head and adding all these like unique details, like that, it's such a unique take that I'm surprised there isn't more like that out in the world.
I mean, there are a lot of Alice in Wonderland properties out there.
Yeah.
And for me, Through the Looking Glass was the first book, like actual book that I remember reading when I was little, like
Okay.
where it's a real book. It does have some pictures, but it's a book. So I feel like Through the Looking Glass is like warped my mind enough that it's always been a thing for me. And Also like Alice in Wonderland, has always been a thing for animation. Disney did Alice's Adventures in Wonderland,
Right.
forever ago. And so also like one of the things that I like about the books is the sort of dreamlike quality that it has, where it just sort of like drifts from one thing to another the way a dream does. And where like the only thing that makes sense in Wonderland is nonsense.
Yep.
And there's things in the book where in Through the Looking Glass, she goes through the looking glass and goes into out the door of the house and wanders away from the house and then realizes how far she is from the house and turns around and starts to run back. And the faster she runs, the further the house gets.
Right.
Things like that, that's just sort of like, you can read that and then be like, how is that a thing? Like, well, like, what would that? So the fact that there are no rules, and it's just sort of like an open world, where like it's whatever you can imagine. That's all what sort of like appeals to me about it. So yeah.
No, it's one of those like I'm glad that after all these years you're taking the opportunity to like go forth and make this thing a reality at the end of the day because like I was already intrigued just by the little hints and little tastes I was able to get online more than anything else. But hearing you talk more about it and how much the story like does kind of mean to you, given the fact that it
Yeah.
was one of the first stories that really like opened up your mind, I guess in a way. It was one of the first books you ever read, and that kind of like led you,
Yeah.
partially maybe led you down this path that you're on now. Like
Yeah.
it makes me
Totally.
so much more excited for this story, and I cannot wait to for you to get the opportunity to get this out there in the world to tell people about it. Like I will ask the ever foreboding question, I must say. How long do you think it'll be before people actually do get the opportunity to see this and get a taste of it?
So I'm putting it out as individual comics as I go.
Okay.
So you can order book one, which is basically act one of the story.
Okay.
And I'm right now I think like on my desk that's page two of book two. I finished all of the pencils for book two, and
Okay.
so I'm now inking book two. I'm kind of aiming for like end of the year, beginning of the year. But yeah, that's the that is the plan.
I'm curious, what is the ultimate end goal that you hope to accomplish with Neverwonderland? Because it seems like such an ambitious idea. I can only imagine how far you want to take it.
So the first goal is to finish the graphic novel, which would be four books
Okay.
that all the beginning, middle, and end of the story of that film that I wanted to make.
Okay.
And then beyond that, if there was interest, then yeah, of course, I would still do more. I feel like for most of my ideas, because I have like one foot in features and one foot in TV, I always think of them as a movie that sort of like then sparks a series.
Right.
So it's like the movie is kind of more the origin story, and then the series can sort of like expand on the world from there. So yeah, that would be the plan. But I'm going to do the graphic novel, and then I'm going to start the next.
Yeah.
Unless like by the time I finish the graphic novel, there's like such a demand for that becomes the job. Then of course I'm going to continue to do that. But at the same time, still try to like get the next thing out because there are projects that I've been sort of like developing in my head. For 31 years.
Yeah.
Like that. It was like when I was on the Max, I was developing a story called "Cigarettes and Cybersex."
Ooh.
That then the Matrix came along, and I was like, I mean, they kind of like stole my thunder, but like now. There's been enough time since the Matrix, and it's different enough that people won't think like, "Oh, he's just doing the Matrix," because I was working on this before the Matrix came along.
Right. Right.
So, and then there's some other things where it's like, I did the Max, and then, I was such a huge fan of Sin City, and so like I have my like noir like crime thing that I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
called Dead Ringer, and then I have this kind of like wacky like sci-fi or not sci-fi like spy versus spy kind of like Wile E. Coyote and the Sheepdog kind of friendship comedy
Okay.
thing called Cattywampus and Akimbo about like a couple of freelance assassins that are just like it's just kind of fun and chaos and like
That does
that.
sound
And
fun.
so so I have a few things that are in my head that I want to get out. And
Yeah.
so like ultimately the end goal for all of that, I want Miyazaki's career. Like I want to
Yeah.
still be like doing this, when I'm 85. And like um, doing it as a book first and then getting it out into the world, or if one of them manages to like land enough that I can just go straight to doing them as a film, then I'll only go straight to doing them as a film. But a film where I do it the way Miyazaki does it and the way other Japanese directors do it, where they board the whole thing themselves. So for me with Neverwonderland, it's kind of like it's not like it's the storyboard, but it's definitely like the key story moments that would go into that film. So it's not like the book would just be a one-to-one translation into storyboards, because there's definitely would need, comic books is a different format than film, and so
Right.
you have to use the language of the format that you're working in. I remember when we were on the Max and we were translating the Max from comic book into animation. There were some times where Sam would cross the line, for film language,
Mm-hmm.
um, and um, and we're like, "Oh, you crossed the line here." And it's like, "Yeah, that's film language. That's not comic books." Comic books, it's about the flow of the page, so it doesn't matter where the line is.
Right.
It's how the page flows. Like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Uh, so, so yeah,
Yeah.
that
No,
that would be the end goal.
I,
I
I
want to. I would love to have like a whole other career that happens where all I do is work on my own stuff.
yeah. No, that
Um,
was the thing I was gonna mention because like as I was doing my research and looking into your stuff, I noticed like you mentioned the likes of Miyazaki and Andrew Floyd Webber and such, like talking about how some of them have like you obviously can see like the early career work that they've been able to have, but the fact they were able to have like basically like a second act or like a a
yeah,
long lasting legacy well
definitely
after
a third
people,
act.
yeah, or even a third act, a long lasting legacy that some people might not even get the opportunity to work on in the first place or whatnot. And I appreciate that that's like a goal that you're setting for yourself because I genuinely think
Yeah,
that with both the experience you've had in the 30 plus years that we've talked about or whatnot, as well as the fun creative ideas that you are brewing and now putting forth or whatnot, I genuinely think you have an opportunity to have that kind of career. Like seriously, like not just with Neverwonderland, but the ideas you even listed right there or whatnot. Like I would love to see each and every single one of them in one form or fashion, even if it's just like a little tiny sketch or if it's like the full blown
Yeah.
like animated movie. Like those all sound like like a lot of fun ideas. I can only imagine for you, like both how exciting but also like how scary it has to kind of seem for you to like want to actually make this a reality.
Yeah, more exciting. I mean, the scary part is, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, that's
Because
a
like,
major
it's not like I
concern.
have like generational wealth that I'm sitting back on.
Yeah.
And I've got two kids that are in school. That college is right around the corner, and so and if the animation industry was still popping off, I would probably not be doing this, what I'm doing. But because it's not,
Yeah.
I feel like I could either do this and sort of bet on myself,
Mm-hmm.
or I could go drive Uber, and or go do handyman work, or something like that, to just like pay the bills,
Right.
or I could do this to like bet on myself and sort of like come full circle to that kid that applied to Cal Arts that had no idea how much it costs, or how like that was even going to happen.
Right.
And I feel like more in tune with that kid now doing this, than at any other point in my career. And the work that I'm doing now is like, it's not like it's more creatively rewarding by 10%. It's more creatively rewarding by like 100,000%.
Right.
The fact that I could just like make a decision and just go with that, like the color scheme is going to be like this, and there's going to be some things that are orange, but mostly it's kind of a bluish black and white.
Right.
And I don't have to get the approval of a bunch of executives who were someone's assistant just last week, that now they've got some approval over your work
Mm-hmm.
when you've been working since longer than they were alive.
Right.
But now they have the authority to give you notes. Like, this is none of that. This is just pure, me, balls to the walls, like doing my thing how I think that it needs to be done, with all of the experience that I have from all of the years of work. And when I think like down the road to like future me, I think about like how much stronger of an artist I am today than I was 30 years ago,
Yeah.
and how much stronger of an artist I will be in 30 years than I am now. And that's the thing about being an artist, is that like you never stop. There's no retirement.
Right.
Like you just keep going. And so that's the plan, is to just keep going and like keep attacking it. And there's kind of like there's no retreat, there's no surrender,
Mm-hmm.
there's only forward. So
Exactly.
yeah, I would love to like down the road that
Ooh.
that when we talk down the road, that these are all of my books,
Right.
that these aren't Frank Miller books. This is like, that's Never Wonderland, that's Dead Ringer, that's Cattywampus Akimbo, that's Cigarettes and Cyber Sex. That's what I want to do. Like, I'm not done with the legacy of working on other people's IP, because if
Yeah.
a job comes up, a job comes up. I got bills to pay.
Of course. Of
But
course.
I'm done ignoring that I have a voice, and that I have things that I want to say and things that I want to do. And so, what the accident did more than anything else was, to show how like quickly it could all go,
Yeah.
and how little time there is left, to do all of this work. So, I'm gonna like work as hard as I can to make it happen. And and come hell or high water, that I will make it happen, because that's that kid that started down this path. It was like, I know that I can work my ass off.
Yeah.
I know I can work harder than anyone else, and so I might not be the most talented character designer or writer or background artist or whatever, but I can work my ass off and I can get it out there into the world. So and the only thing that's stopping me is me.
Exactly.
So I don't need anyone's permission. I just need to sit down and do the work.
I mean, that work ethic has gotten you this far in life, helping out other people and helping out with legacy stuff, taking that
Yeah,
work ethic and applying it to yourself is the next best logical step in my opinion, more than anything else. And I it's unfortunate that it took a near death experience for you to get to this point, but it's also
yeah,
it's also really good to hear that you're not taking life for granted. That
right.
you're doing what you can to go forth and make this a reality and make this put something out there and have a ton of pride in it, knowing that you had your voice out there in the world the way you want to put, not
Yeah,
how you were interpreting other people's stuff and putting it out there into the
yeah,
world. Um,
yeah. Which to never wonder,
yep. To never wonder.
never wonder what it would have been like.
Um, you know, all this stuff kind of it does. I feel like it's great that you're talking about wanting to put your voice out there and wanting to get that, put your stamp on society, I guess, in a way, because it does kind of lead to the next question that I have, which, Seth, if I may, I want to give you more or less the dream scenario. Let's say I am Big Shot Mr. Moneybag. I'm one of these executives that you hear about, and I come to him like, look, Seth, we've seen the incredible years in the industry that you've been able to have, and we've seen what you've been brewing up on your own. We know that there's something here. You just need a little extra push, a little extra platform to get to a new level with this kind of stuff. We have access to everyone and anyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than there should be possible. We probably should be giving it back to the animators, make sure that they have a good living wage, be able to pay their bills, all stuff like that. Hashtag
Right,
stay with
right.
animation forever and always. And also, when it comes to the creative stuff, we're gonna be mainly hands off. We just want you to produce what you want. You give it to us, we'll put it out there. We're not gonna do any S&D, all that stuff. Like, we have
Yeah.
faith in what you're putting out there. If given this opportunity, what would be the dream Seth Kearsley or the dream Dojo Productions project?
I mean, it would be Neverwonderland at the moment.
Okay.
And and if there was that sort of like endless, money bag situation, I feel like that Arcane has really, like, they have set the bar. They are the high watermark. They're the goal to achieve, and to aspire to be like.
Right.
Like that show. Really is like six feature films,
It really is,
and
yeah.
they did such a phenomenal job on that. The fact that, like, a year later, like, fans are still finding Easter eggs. That would be the dream.
There you go.
To you know and if I had my pick of, like, I would be, with Fortiche, like, working on Neverwonderland,
There you go.
living in Paris, working with the French animators at Fortiche. I'll have to learn French,
We can
but
provide a
that
translator for
I
you
would
starting
be,
out.
yeah.
uh,
Yeah, maybe by this time next year there'll be like earpieces that you wear that for the AI translates language for you.
I mean, I know there's some
I
out
think.
there, but like, hopefully there's some that are a lot more reliable. Because I'm pretty sure the ones that are out there, whatnot, they're just using like Google Translate, which is never like the
Yeah.
best AI software to use. Um,
But I mean, that's what I would do. But I don't know that I would want to spend like all the money in the world,
all right.
because everyone, with Arcane, like, the amount of money that everyone thinks was spent, because Riot hasn't released how much money they spent on it.
Right.
Everyone thinks that it was $250 million for those two seasons, and then they act like that'll never happen again because that's not what animation budgets are. Even though, like, the Lord of the Rings series for Amazon had a much bigger budget than that, and Game of Thrones much bigger budget than that.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow animation, has to remain the pauper, that is just begging for table scraps,
Unfortunately.
and so I wouldn't want to spend $250 million uh, on like one thing. If there was $250 million, then I would say that should be like 25 things.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend less money, because I've never really seen money solve anything.
Yeah.
I think creativity thrives in when you have to come up with creative solutions other than just throwing money at problems. Creativity needs boundaries. Like you have to have something that you're working within.
Right.
And so, like, unlimited funds, is not going to help the creativity. Limitation, is the mother of creativity.
Exactly.
So, you have to like be forced to be creative. And if you've got all the money in the world, then you just keep throwing money at it. You just keep throwing money at it, and.
I mean, you could set the limit. We're just saying it's there. You don't have to reach
Right.
in the piggy bank. We're just saying, hey, like let's say some last minute expense came up or whatnot. Like, yeah, sure, here, just
Yeah,
here,
yeah,
whatever
yeah,
helps
yeah.
out.
But I think, even with that, I would say that, what they've done with Ghibli, is
Yeah.
like, they bet the bank on every movie, and every movie, it came back, and then some, and then they bet the bank on the next movie.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know why more people don't use, that example as what you should be doing.
Right.
Why people keep looking at what Disney has done or what DreamWorks has done, or what, big movie studios have done. How about let's look at what Flow has done.
Right.
That was $4 million. You know, um, and it doesn't have to be a lot of money. It has to be a lot of creativity.
Exactly. Sadly, though, yeah, I gave you the dream scenario, but sadly, we have to get down from that dream scenario. We have to get back to reality, and I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
I would hope that 5 to 10 years from now, I have, I've done, five more films.
There you go.
But I've done Neverwonderland, and I've done, Cigarettes and Cyber Sex, and I've done Dead Ringer, and uh, you know, um, or if nothing else, I have
Yep.
this stack of these are my books now, and I put this out into the world. So it doesn't necessarily have to be film. And also, like, if it was to go to film, I don't think that I necessarily have to be the one that directs it. I just want to like get my stories out into the world. So,
Exactly.
if there's some new person that is like, they have more clout, then great. You do that. I'll go on to the next book. So it's really just getting my own stuff out into the world.
Absolutely. And that's a good thing to always aspire for, as I've said several times at this point with what you've been able to do. As we start to wind down the interview, I just got one last question that I want to ask you. Obviously, you are deeply entrenched in art in one form or fashion at this point. From the early days, being in your dad's truck, drawing on the paper, going to those parties early on, working with so many incredible opportunities one after another to here you are right now taking the charge on your own. How important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
I mean, I feel like, it goes back for me to, that people ask the question, when did you start drawing? And I respond with, when did you stop?
Yeah.
And I think that if there more people drew in the world would be a better place, and there would be less confusion, and people would feel more like, one with their creator if they're being creative. And everyone says like, "Oh, I can't draw," or I can't, I can only draw a stick figure." And I would just shoot back that all you have to do is draw more.
Yeah.
And if you just drew something every day, by the end of that year, you will be 365 times better than you were on that day one.
Exactly.
And that if people drew, like that, they would feel more complete within themselves, and would also have a better view of the world, because they're drawing the world that's around them. Like they're going to feel more in touch with the world, and they're going to spend less time doom scrolling. When it comes down to it, you are either creating or you're consuming.
Hmm.
And I feel like we've consumed enough. So, if more people could just like create, then the world would be a better place. And, yeah, to be all like, yeah, hippy dippy about it.
Well, regardless, I think that is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself. Um, Seth, that is all the questions that I have for you. I've already showered you with so much praise up to this point, but I'm gonna shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do what I want. Um, like like I had said whenever we even first started, like I'd never realized how much of an impact you kind of had on me, like growing up. Like I know you mentioned it in like your biography. The amount of people you've heard that from at this point is probably more than you probably ever anticipated when you even started getting into this industry.
Yeah, you don't think about like when people say you were my childhood, but like you don't think about like, oh yeah, like the people that are watching this grew up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like the weird thing that I never realized until you started taking the time to put more online and people were recognizing like the work you've been able to do and what you've been able to put out
Yeah,
there. It's really insane to even see that stuff in the first place and again, get that kind of instant hit of like, "Oh my god, this is the person that helped make this or this is the person that had a hand in it in one form or fashion." Getting the chance to sit down and talk with you now and like getting the chance to hear like a more in-depth like first person perspective of what you've been able to go through, the incredible opportunities, some of which I wish we had so much more time to just touch upon because there are so many like cool incredible stuff both before and after like the main things that people know you for. I mean, I didn't even get a chance to talk about the illumination films you had a hand in one form or fashion,
mm,
like it's so insane to think like all this incredible stuff and to hear that especially nowadays for you like as cool as it is to work on that legacy stuff and the incredible opportunities that led to you, it's great to hear that you have that love for the art in general that you want to go forth and get your ideas out there because honestly seeing what you've been able to have a hand in and seeing what you have been able to make for yourself like just the little bits here and there, it makes me so excited for what's going to be happening next, like genuinely in one form or fashion. Like look, I've been loving the Alice, caricature in the background that you've had or whatnot. And if that's just even like the first step for what people get to see of yours or whatnot, like I sincerely hope that they're ready for a good like 10-mile walk ahead of them because of the incredible stuff you have to put out there. I'm excited for what you're gonna be putting out there, and I cannot tell you the amount of love and respect that I have for you and what you've been able to do and what you're continuing to do. Genuinely, I know I've been gushing and blabbering and rambling myself, but the long and the short that I want to say for it is, Seth, thank you so much. Thank you so much for providing a hand for some of the incredible things that inspired me growing up. Thank you for being a part of this industry, no matter how wild and chaotic it has been, and putting forth your best effort, having that mentality that you've had for years. And I just know that I am going to be rooting for you every single step of the way for what you're going to be doing from here on out. I want to see Neverwonderland succeed. I want to see, cigarettes and cyber sex or, the, I want to see each and every single one of those ideas that you talked about. I want to see them come to fruition because I'm going to be like front row or maybe back of the theater if you make those like a reality because I want to see each one of those come to life, whether it's in book form, theater form, TV form, however form it is. I'm excited for it. I genuinely am. And I hope that everyone else that is either watching this or seeing your stuff otherwise gets that same level of excitement. So the long and short of it, again, thank you so much for what you're doing. Please keep up the incredible work.
thank you.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what
Look, hey, that's valid. That's valid. We've been talking for a lot as it is. I mean, what else is there to say at this point? Except, I will say, if people want to see more about what you are doing and what you could potentially be putting out there, go ahead and plug your stuff for the people for the people out there. Where can they see more about you and what you got going on?
So my website is dojoproductionsinc.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so that has my store on it. That's where you can get Neverwonderland
Yeah.
and a bunch of stickers and prints. And I have, commissions on there. I have, consultations on there. If someone has like a project that they like want to get like some feedback on or something like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's the whole thing right there.
There you go.
My website, which is the name of my company, Dojo Productions Inc., which
Yep.
sort of like goes back to like the martial arts days for me.
Okay.
That a dojo is kind of a school where you're constantly training. So that's what it is for me.
There you go. I didn't even mention any of the prints that you have. I like seeing the prints and stickers that you have on your website or whatnot. It's so much fun. Like on the one hand, I love how you mentioned Arcane. I love your illustration of Jinx. I love like your blend of the art style with it. But on the other hand, you also have the blend of the two biggest things that people know you for, combining Eight Crazy Nights with Kingdom Hearts, which
Yeah.
that I imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine how much that blew up whenever you put that out there, just having the blend of the two
Yeah.
universes.
Yeah, there have been a couple of moments where, like, all of a sudden, someone retweets something that I tweeted, and then there's like a big explosion with the store, and then I'm spending like the next couple of days just fulfilling orders.
That's
So
valid.
yeah, love it when that happens. I
There you
love to
go.
see it.
If nothing else, it certainly helps, take care of the bills like you talked about earlier more than
It does,
anything
yeah,
else.
it does help pay the bills.
Um,
They will let you buy food with that money.
exactly. So please help Seth get food by buying the stuff in the store. Link to that is going to be in the description and then some. If you missed any links, I got you covered. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
I mean, it's already like if anyone is still listening at this point,
There are
they're
some
probably like,
there
please no more final words.
there are some dedicated people out there. I can tell you that right now. I know because I'm one of those dedicated people. Regardless, thank you so much once again for taking the time to do this, and for the people.
For the one long haul trucker that is still listening at this point.
Hey, look, I probably know that truck because I work in a warehouse. But anyways, with that, all I have left to say is for the people at home, if you can, please pay your artists.
I will leave it at that.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me it's parts in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Like I said in the intro, this was a conversation that I was so excited for. Just whenever I realized who Seth was more than anything else and how much of an impact he had on me growing up without me even realizing it. Seth, I know you said you probably weren't going to watch this back, but if you did get up to this point, sincerely, thank you for even taking the opportunity in the first place. This was an absolute, and this was as surreal for me as it was for you throughout your entire career at this point. I mean, just getting the chance to talk to him more than anything else and really pick at his brain at like the career that we got to even touch upon. Like you heard me towards the tail end, there were so many things that we never even got a chance to really delve deep into. Like I would have loved to have the chance to delve more into like his Phineas and Ferb days, considering the fact that he and Dan Povenmire go way back, considering the fact that they both worked on Family Guy at one point. I want to know more about the Illumination stuff, especially, hey, given the holiday season, he worked on that Grinch film that they worked on. Like, I feel bad for myself, but at the same time, like, this is the kind of stuff that I could tell that there was a lot of love for what he did do, and more than anything else, I want to emphasize some of the major things, but I was just proudest most of all that we got the chance to talk about his comic, Neverwonderland. I'm going to make sure to have the video linked in the description below. But there's a video where he talks about what more or less jump-started him to do this thing. And this was this horrible accident that he got involved in, ruining his car. He mentioned it. We mentioned it in the episode stuff, but I sincerely hope you guys take the chance to listen to it. But as sad as it is that it took a literal near-death experience for him to get to this point, I'm glad that was the thing that he needed in order to jumpstart this new step in his career, to go forth and tell the stories that he really wants to. I mean, like I said, this guy's had over 3 decades in the animation industry. He's had a career that some could only dream about, especially in today's animation world where it's hard to even get your foot in the door. And now he's taken the opportunity, he's taking his destiny into his own hands and putting out something that he feels so confident in more than anything else. And I sincerely hope that you guys show that love and support back to him. I want to see him do more. I want to see so much more of his stuff. I want to see that creativity and that love really bloom out of this more than anything else. I'll let you guys know right now, I ordered that comic only recently, so I'm going to be getting it within the next couple of days or so. But I could go on. I mean, obviously, this is my part. I could do whatever I want. But I'm just so excited to see what he could do next. Because he's had so many incredible opportunities beforehand, and yet he wants to do so much more. And I want to see so much more. This is that love and that drive that I want to see, not just for him, but for all the artists out there in this community. I want to see that love. I want to see that determination. I want to see you guys go out there and tell this story that you want, no matter what. I hope you guys got that from this conversation more than anything else, as well as some incredible cool stories. And I hope that you guys can take it and put that into your own work and do so many incredible things. Because I want to see more creativity, more love, more passion out there in the world. And I know you guys are absolutely capable of it more than anything else. So from me to you, I hope this was a fun Christmas gift or whatever, day you decide to watch this thing. And I hope that you guys really light that fire under you and put out the things that you want to see out there in the world. Because believe it or not, there are so many people that don't realize it yet, but they want to see it too. I know I want to see it more than anything else, so go out there and make it.